The story begins with aliens getting ready to invade Earth, and we see an old man pondering what's going on. We see our protagonist Ataru conversing with his girlfriend Shinobu. She is upset because Ataru's looking at other girls, yet Ataru tries to convince her. Shinobu gives Ataru one more chance, but he instantly breaks his promise after seeing a female jogger nearby. Shinobu slaps him and walks away. Ataru gets tackled off the bridge by the elderly man and lands in the river. The two reconcile at a nearby area, as the old man explains that he thought Ataru was attempting to jump from the bridge. Ataru tells the old man that he wouldn't throw his life away because of a girl, and the old man tells Ataru he looks ugly, and Ataru beats him up, leaving the old man with bandages over his face. Ataru's mother and Shinobu arrive, saying they've been worried about him after hearing some bad news. A group of government agents arrives, informing Ataru that they've been looking for him. When Ataru arrives home, the alien's wooden-looking leader greets him, and Ataru tries exorcising it. The invaders point their weapons at Ataru to stop him. They tell Ataru that he must defend Earth as apart from the aliens' invasion plan. The alien leader says they want to compete in a showdown against a random human that their computer picks, and if they lose, they will give up and go home. The alien leader informs Ataru that he will compete in a game of tag against his daughter, Lum. Lum arrives at Ataru's house and introduces herself to everyone. While charmed by Lum's beauty, the alien leader explains that Ataru has 10 days to beat Lum in tag by grabbing both of her horns. Lum tells Ataru that he won't be able to get his hands on her, but Ataru is fired up. After some time, the competition between Lum and Ataru begins as everyone from the aliens and humans arrives at a large stadium to witness the game. The game starts as Ataru rushes to grab Lum, but she dodges him by flying into the air, which shocks him. He tells Lum she's cheating because he didn't know she could fly, but she tells him he should have done his research. After several failed attempts, Ataru finds the situation hopeless until a group of girls encourages him to keep trying. Ataru continues his attempts as 5 days pass. Journalists and citizens swarm Ataru, mocking and hating him for his failure. Lum looks at him from above and starts feeling bad for Ataru. Ataru's parents and Cherry converse about their worries about the aliens' plans, and Cherry says it was unfortunate that he was born with terrible luck. Ataru's mother and father bow their heads in shame as his mother wishes she had never given birth to him. Ataru lay in his bed, thinking about his defeat. His friends see him depressed, and to motivate Ataru, Shinobu declares she'll marry him if he wins. This reignites Ataru's passion and motivation, as his other friends give off a sigh of relief. We arrive on the final day of the competition. As Ataru attempts to grab Lum's horns, he continuously utters the word marriage to motivate himself. Lum and the audience are left puzzled as Ataru grabs Lum's feet and laughs. She shocks him with her electricity powers and leaves him on the ground. However, Ataru gets back up and rushes toward her again as she hesitantly tries to evade him. Motivated by his desire to marry Shinobu, Ataru leaps into the air and grabs Lum. She tries to shoo him away, leading to Ataru removing her bra by accident. Ataru throws her bra into the air to catch Lum off guard. Lum grabs it but doesn't see Ataru from behind. He uses the opportunity to grab hold of her two horns and wins the game. He yells into the air that it's time to get married as the humans cheer in delight that the aliens won't be invading Earth anymore. Ataru dances, excited that he'll finally be a married man. However, Lum walks over to him and accepts his marriage offer. Lum's father is shocked, but Lum insists that Ataru proposed to him during their game of tag. Lum's father accepts their marriage and tells Ataru that he better take care of his daughter. Shinobu's upset with Ataru and leaves. In the morning, Ataru glares at his television screen, happy to see more ladies talking great about him on the news. Just then Lum arrives and Ataru is surprised that the aliens haven't left Earth yet. She tells him she plans to live with him since they're married. Ataru's parents look at him with disappointment. Lum shocks Ataru the next day for trying to cheat on her. He's furious that she keeps butting into his conversation with Shinobu over the phone, and tells her that he loves Shinobu. This infuriates Lum, causing her to electrocute Ataru. She flies off as Ataru drags himself to his home telephone. He calls Shinobu, who tries to plan her next date with Ataru. Somehow, Lum gets involved in their dual phone call, making it a three-way. She tells Shinobu that she plans to make babies with Ataru on Saturday night to infuriate her. Shinobu hangs up the phone enraged. Ataru cries about the situation, saying he hates Lum for ruining his life. In a spaceship, Lum monitors Ataru's actions from afar. She's infuriated that Ataru continuously tries to cheat on her. Ataru covers his ears as his mother rants about her friend is going to start spreading ill rumors about her because of his actions. While they're bickering, a newscaster on the TV reports that an aircraft flew over their hometown and disappeared. Ataru attempts to call Shinobu again, but Lum intervenes in the call again and makes up things to rile up Shinobu, but before she hangs up, Ataru stops and tells her to hear him out. Lum tells more lies to persuade Shinobu to hang up the phone, but Ataru convinces Shinobu not to fall for Lum's lies. The two try to play it off like she's not on the line, which infuriates her. Meanwhile, Ataru's parents are watching the news as the reporters claim Lum, Shinobu, and Ataru's three-way phone call can trigger a black hole to form. Ataru says he will pay Shinobu a visit in person, but Lum pulls a lever, shocking him with electricity and causing a thunderstorm to erupt in town. Ataru puts on a disguise, but before he leaves his father interrupts him. He gives his Rubbermaid raincoat to help him avoid getting electrocuted. As Ataru and Shinobu rush toward each other, Lum turns up the power, causing the electricity to go out across the town. Ataru and Shinobu get engulfed in smoke, making it hard for them to find each other. The two scream each other's name and end up reuniting. Lum plans to crash her ship into two to destroy this love triangle, and this causes it to smoke up again. Ataru believes he's found her again but finds out he's hugging Lum. The smoke clears up and Shinobu sees Ataru hugging her. She picks up a telephone pole and throws it at them and leaves as Ataru calls out to her. Meanwhile, people flock toward Ataru's home, demanding to pay for the damage caused by Lum, while we see Lum zapping Ataru with her electric shock as punishment for cheating. The next day, Ataru is sitting in class while being smothered by Lum, and everyone in class is annoyed with Lum and finds it hard to concentrate. Shinobu starts crying because of Lum's teasing, resulting in all the girls in the class belittling Ataru, and Shinobu buries Ataru under multiple desks. The next day, Ataru visits a restaurant to eat under disguise. As he eats, the television reporter classifies him as a missing person. Lum, Shinobu, Cherry, and his family share their grievances over his absence. The news reporter puts up a photo of Ataru in disguise, causing some people in the diner to point suspicion at him. Ataru flees and bumps into a woman. He asks the woman if she needs help seductively, and the woman knocks him to the ground. She can sense his terrible luck due to her having physiognomy, and she reveals that she's a shrine maiden and that Ataru is ill-fated regarding women. She promises to do an exorcism on Ataru to try to relieve him of his curse. At her house, we learn that the woman's name is Sakura. When Ataru meets Sakura's mother, he tries to flee, but Sakura's mother lassos him back into their home. She pulls Ataru into the exorcism room and he tries to escape, but Sakura knocks him toward the ground with one of her canes. Sakura prepares the exorcism, but she can't perform it successfully due to tooth pain. This causes many demons to swarm Ataru, showing that Sakura is making things worse. Sakura chants and tries to wipe away the demons, but she stops again due to pain, and Ataru tells her that every time she stops, more monsters show up. Suddenly, we discover that the demons that latched themselves onto Ataru were the ones causing Sakura pain. Sakura sends the demons packing, only for the Grim Reaper to show up and slice Ataru. At the hospital, Sakura and her mother speak with Cherry, and he's happy that the demons causing her illness have vanished, and we find out he's her uncle. Everyone from the Grim Reaper and Ataru's loved ones establishes pity for him because they think he's dead. Ataru wakes up asking for a woman's number and address, and in anger Lum gives Ataru and Grim Reaper an electric shock. The next day Ataru visits Cherry and he asks him if he can make something to strip away Lum's powers. He shares his reasoning with Cherry and is unaware that Lum's nearby. Lum starts electrocuting Ataru as Cherry realizes Ataru's predicament. At Ataru's house, one of his friends visits him and gives him a present from Cherry. Inside the box is a yellow ribbon and a letter from Cherry. In the letter, Cherry informs Ataru that he needs to tie the ribbon on Lum's horns to neutralize her powers, and only those who tie the ribbon can take it off. Lum arrives and Ataru ties the ribbon around her horns. Lum loves the gift, and she leaves but lands hard on the ground after attempting to fly away. As Lum tries to figure out what's going on, Ataru and his friend spy on her. Lum bumps into one of Ataru's other friends and tries shocking him to see if her electrocution powers work, and his friend takes her gestures as a sign of affection, sparking jealousy in Ataru's other friend. The same routine repeats with this friend, causing a massive argument between the two. As they are arguing, Ataru confronts Lum, asking her why she can't use her powers. Shinobu arrives, telling them to get a room. Lum retaliates with an offhand reply and flaunts the gift that Ataru gave her, and Shinobu's enraged that Ataru never gave her anything and tries taking off Lum's ribbon, but Ataru blocks her, which makes Shinobu sad. She wanted to give him some baked cookies, but she kicks Ataru in the face, leaving him defeated. At night, Ataru's two friends wish to crash at his place. They want to protect Lum because she can't utilize her powers and worries about Ataru's pervy antics. Ataru fights his friends, leading them to leap onto a nearby tree outside his bedroom window, and Lum thanks Ataru for his heroism and tells him she wants to be with him forever. Ataru hates the idea and asks Lum to take the ribbon off, but Lum begs him to stop. Ataru's friends rush into his room through the window, and they stumble upon Ataru overpowers Lum. They try to knock him off of her, but Lum isn't happy and asks them to leave. As she chucks Ataru's belongings at them, she unknowingly throws the box sent by Cherry, and the letter inside the box lands in front of one of his friends. His friend reads the letter, revealing everything to Lum. She gets angry and performs various wrestling maneuvers on Ataru, and he finally removes the ribbon, giving Lum her powers back. As Lum electrocutes Ataru for his cruel actions, she vows to give Cherry a similar punishment. At his tent, Cherry receives a faint message in his concoction alarming him that he's in danger. Cherry packs up his belongings and plans to stay at Sakura's house for the night to avoid any problems with Lum. The next day, we meet a boy named Shutaro, who plans to move to Tomatake Town, and he jumps from a plane to attend his first day in school. Shutaro wishes his grandfather well before he attends his first day at Tomobiki High School. When they arrive above the building, Shutaro leaps out of the plane to make a dramatic entrance. At the school, Shinobu chases Lum and Ataru because she's tired of Lum's affection toward Ataru, and Shinobu throws a desk at Ataru but breaks a window instead. Everyone notices a strange parachute outside and decides to investigate. One of the students notices Shutaro clinging to the desk Shinobu threw, and his grandfather and henchman ask Shutaro if he's alright while aboard the family's jet. A teacher scolds Shutaro for having jets fly over the school, but Shutaro pays him no mind. Shinobu approaches Shutaro and apologizes to him. Shutaro tells her not to worry as Shinobu starts developing feelings for him. In class, Shutaro is swarmed by many girls who ask him questions about his family and their wealth, and Shutaro notices Ataru bugging Shinobu and approaches them. As Shutaro flirts with Shinobu, Ataru grows jealous of their exchange and says that Shinobu is his girl. Lum gets angry and shocks him, which catches Shutaro's attention. Lum introduces herself to Shutaro and tells him that she's married to Ataru. Shutaro's disgusted by that thought and starts critiquing Ataru's looks. This initiates an argument between him, Lum, Ataru, and Shinobu. Minutes later, Ataru's homeroom teacher announces that they'll be holding elections for the new class president. Shutaro declares his run for candidacy. He plans to punish slackers in his class with the most brutal punishments possible. Although everyone isn't on board, Shutaro says he'll make females exempt, which angers the male classmates. Disgusted by his proposal, his male classmates band together and aim to have Ataru run against Shutaro despite Ataru's faults. After giving his proposal about calling dibs on all the girls in his class, their homeroom teacher asks the class to decide on a winner. Unfortunately, Shutaro and Ataru reach a stalemate, and Shutaro suggests a competition to declare the winner. Whoever can shoot an apple off their opponent's head with a cannon wins. Shutaro tries to kick off the event by initiating the rite of challenge involving throwing a glove at their opponent, but Ataru dodges and annoys Shutaro. Shutaro chases Ataru to the school's rooftops while Lum spies on them from the skies. Shutaro throws the glove at Ataru, but Lum protects him. Ataru tells Lum that Shutaro challenged her to a duel, which infuriates Lum, and she electrocutes Shutaro. All his classmates arrive, and Ataru tells them he came out victorious. Ashamed for losing against a fool, Shutaro plans to end his life, but as he prepares to die, Ataru cheers about his victory while everyone else tries to back Shutaro out of the act. We see Shutaro meditating in his family's garden while thinking about Lum. At school, Lum's searching for Ataru but runs into Shutaro as he's parachuting from the skies. Shutaro comforts Lum, but she shoves him away for getting in the way of her search mission. Near a ballpark, Ataru asks Shinobu if she likes Shutaro. Shinobu confirms that she's developed feelings for him because he's more handsome, wealthier, and kinder than Ataru. Shutaro and Lum arrive, engulfing them in his parachute. Lum finds Ataru, and he finds Shutaro atop Shinobu, which angers him, and she departs the scene full of glee and love. Ataru leaves the area with Lum following close behind, and Shutaro discovers that he's fallen in love with Lum. The group attends a field trip in the forest, and the teacher wants everyone to establish camaraderie with their classmates and let them loose. Ataru's upset that Lum decided to tag along because he wanted to get more intimate with Shinobu. Shutaro approaches Lum and asks if she'd like to go sightseeing in a nearby cavern. Lum accepts his offer after getting permission for Ataru to attend. Ataru joins them after conjuring up a quick scheme that'll get him alone time with Shinobu, and she also joins the fray when learning that Shutaro's on board. While exploring the cave, Ataru nudges Shutaro's shoulder and suggests they split up. When they reach a split path, the two conduct their plan. After Shutaro shuts his flashlight off, they all scramble to find each other in the darkness. Ataru thinks he's with Shinobu but discovers Lum, who's wrapped around his shoulder. Shutaro and Shinobu stumble upon them as Shinobu clings to Shutaro, and the four decide to head further into the cave, and Shutaro's shown badmouthing Ataru for his mistakes. Shutaro and Ataru initiate their plan again, and everyone scrambles to find each other. Shutaro discovers he's no longer with Shinobu but with Ataru, and the two spook each other. The two decide to look for Lum and Shinobu, and Shutaro reveals the truth about his brave bravado and tells Ataru he can only act fine when women have their eyes on him. He suffers from nyctophobia and claustrophobia. Shutaro screams in fear, and Lum and Shinobu arrive. Upon arriving, Shutaro puts on a brave act and pushes Ataru into a nearby wall. Ataru covers their eyes, triggering Shutaro's illness. The four continue their journey through the cave, but the flashlight goes out for real this time, and Lum utilizes her electric powers because she can't find Ataru. Unknowingly, Lum sets a rocket off, causing a massive explosion in the cave. Their teacher and classmates notice them from afar, and everyone but Shinobu bickers with each other. But we see a glimpse of another alien spacecraft, and a mysterious girl is resting in a container. The next day, we see Lum and Ataru competing against Shinobu and Shutaro in tennis. At the same time, some crows are carrying a pod in a forest. Their tennis ball hits one of the crow on his head, causing them to lose their balance and drop the pod. The pod crashes on top of Shutaro despite Ataru warning him about it, and Ataru notices a woman in the pod and informs the others. The crows cry out for the woman in the pod as we discover she's a princess. The crows tell Shutaro he looks handsome and say he's a perfect match for their princess since she adores hot men. The crows wake up their master as he explains where he came from to the group, and he says their planet has no humanoid males, so they travel to Earth to locate a groom for Princess Kurama. The master crow tells Shutaro they want him to marry the princess and go on a date with her. Although Shutaro's not happy with the situation, the crows ask him to hurry up before Ataru seals the deal. Shinobu stops him, but Shutaro informs her that he's not doing it of his own accord, and Shutaro's failure gives Ataru a chance to kiss Princess Kurama. Everyone's astonished by Ataru's actions, and the Master Crow informs them that now that Ataru's kissed Kurama, she must pledge to the man who awakens her with a kiss. Kurama wakes up and notices Shutaro. She mistakes him for being the one that kissed her, and Ataru tries to tell Kurama that he woke her up, but Lum electrocutes him out of anger. Several days later, the crows meet on their ship with Lum, and one of the crows suggests they have her hooked up with Shutaro, but the Master Crow wants to follow tradition and have Ataru be her groom. Lum is surprised that Kurama doesn't know that she kissed him. One of the crows plans to keep it that way, and Lum offers to help, but before the Master Crow can inform Kurama of the truth, one of the crows tells him that Kurama is spending time with Shutaro as they speak. At school, Ataru lectured about proper etiquette between boys and girls. Some students complain while others cheer Shutaro on. Despite being praised, Shutaro's upset that he failed to kiss Kurama before Ataru did. Kurama arrives and asks Shutaro to attend a date with her, but Lum comes with a flamethrower and threatens to harm Kurama if she dares make contact with Ataru. Ataru tries to woo Kurama, but she swipes him away, and Lum asks Ataru why he's being flirtatious with Kurama. Ataru says he doesn't mind going on one date with a girl because it means he won't have any problems later. Some crows arrive and tell Kurama that the Master Crow is sleeping on the ship. Kurama gets flirtatious with Shutaro, but before Ataru attempts to tell Kurama the truth, the crows cover his mouth with a cloth and pull Shutaro aside and ask him to play along. After some convincing, Shutaro decides to move forward with their plan, and he re-enters the classroom and tells Kurama he can't wait for their night of Umra's Congress. Shinobu and Ataru try telling Kurama the truth, but the crows prevent them. Lum and the crows build Kurama and Shutaro a mechanical love nest to make babies, and Shutaro's female classmates continue complaining, and Kurama tries shutting them up. Shutaro doesn't want to do it in public, but Lum tells them she and the crows made the love nest fully enclosed, and Kurama drags Shutaro inside the love nest while everyone, including Shinobu, is troubled about the matter. Inside, we see Shutaro is nervous as Kurama asks him if she's opposed to making babies with her, but before they commit the act, Ataru squeezes his way into the ship, upsetting Kurama. The Master Crow arrives and informs Kurama that Ataru is the one who awakened her, and Kurama asks Shutaro if the Master Crow's telling the truth, and he confirms he is. He tells her he lied because he wants her to be happy. Kurama refuses to follow tradition, but the Master Crow insists on it. She asks him what would happen if they went against the rules, and the Master Crow says he doesn't know. They decide to know what would happen if Kurama broke tradition. The Master Crow has his men on his ship's computer, so he can access the mother computer on their home planet. He hopes to locate knowledge from previous elders. After many masters fail to explain, the present Master Crow locates the crow who started the tradition. He refuses to explain the reason for creating the ceremony, but Kurama insists she has a right to know. So he explains that he went on a perilous journey and encountered a lady crow sleeping near a shore, and he kissed her without hesitation to awaken her, and they eventually got married. But she gets angry and demands an explanation for why he established the tradition, but the crow doesn't give her a great response, leading her to destroy their computer. She's shocked that she lived a life dedicated to a pointless tradition. Kurama enters her nest and feels depressed, but Shutaro enters soon after and comforts her. He tells her she should be happy because they don't need to worry about breaking the rules. Before they continue where they left off, Ataru engulfs Shutaro in a sealed bell, and Shutaro starts crying because of his illness and the lack of women looking at him. Kurama's astonished by Shutaro's wimpy persona. Kurama leaves the nest and tells Lum that she can't stand pathetic men, and plans to leave Earth in search of someone stronger. Lum's surprised by Kurama's quick change of heart, and Kurama tells her that now that she's free to choose her husband, she can raise standards for herself. The next day, some classmates inform Ataru that there's a new school nurse, so Ataru rushes to the nurse's office to get a good look at her. He learns it's Sakura, the shrine maiden from before. Meanwhile, tons of boys, including Shutaro, gawk over Sakura, but after glancing at her again, Ataru develops feelings for her. Sakura shoos everyone away with one of her heels. Seconds later, some men arrive and ask Sakura to perform an exorcism on their boxing gloves. Seconds later, Cherry's cat and Cherry barge into Sakura's office because the cat stole his fish. Sakura knocks them out of her office with her chair, and the men notice that Sakura sent one of the gloves flying along with Cherry and his cat. At the same time, Lum is flying over the area and gets hit by the same glove. Lum shows it to Ataru in school, and he explains what it is, but Ataru realizes the glove's possessed by something as it's forcefully moving him around. The glove forces him to cuddle with various girls, resulting in Lum punishing him with her electricity. The glove forces Ataru to fondle Shutaro, and the two get into a heated argument. Sakura arrives in the classroom in her shrine maiden outfit and explains the situation to everyone, and she says the glove is cursed by an entity called the Love Clincher. It adores getting close and personal with people by performing a cinch hold, and explains that a residual boxer cursed these gloves and used them in the past. He was a fearsome being that no one wanted to meet, and Lum gets close to Ataru, activating the gloves. He protects Lum by taking the glove's punch. Ataru approaches Shutaro, and the right glove sends him into the air, resulting in another fight between Shutaro and Ataru. Sakura hatches a scheme and places Ataru and Lum inside a barrier-covered boxing ring. Sakura says that Lum and Ataru should continue doing their back-and-forth antics in the ring to help with the exorcism. Ataru protects Lum to the best of his abilities because he doesn't want to hit a woman, but gets knocked out by his own hooks as Sakura enters the ring and removes the gloves. She says the exorcism worked as the constant hugging and punching satisfied the spirit, and Sakura punches Ataru after he tries to make a move on her. Lum and Ataru are heading to school, and Ataru tells her not to interfere with the scoring girl's routine as they pass by a loving couple holding hands. Lum tries to grab Ataru's hand, but Ataru spots Shinobu and rushes toward her, which infuriates Lum. At school, Shutaro receives another love letter from a female classmate, and his male classmates are jealous. Ataru and Lum arrive as Ataru's male classmate glances at his disrespect toward her. His classmates head into the restroom to let out some steam, and they forge a vengeance-filled scheme to get back at Shutaro for swiping all the girls off his feet. In class, the boys create a fake love letter directed toward Ataru. Once the boys complete it, they get Ataru to read it aloud. Ataru reads some hateful remarks toward Shutaro, which catches his attention, and Shutaro looks at the letter's handwriting and says it couldn't have come from a cute girl. Lum arrives and notices Ataru jumping in glee, and Shutaro tells her that he's joyful because he received a love letter from a girl, and Lum demands Ataru tell her who gave him the letter. Lum cries into Shutaro's chest, which makes him happy and the other male classmates jealous. Lum asks him if he's mad that she's in the arms of another man, but he responds that they look great together. Shutaro tells Lum that she needs to give up on Ataru since he'd rather gawk at a fake love letter than cuddle with her. This angers Ataru, who believes the girl who gave it to him is real. Shutaro and Ataru form a bet around the situation, and Shutaro says if the girl isn't real, he gets to take over as class president, but Ataru says if she is real, Shutaro must fork over 10,000 yen to him. Some male classmates forge the letter huddle to devise a plan, and they don't want Ataru to lose the bet. So they ask a girl at a cafe to pretend to be Otoko for 1 hour, which is the name of the fake girl from the ladder, and the girl accepts the offer. The next day, one of the classmates hands Ataru a new letter from Otoko, which mentions that she wants to meet Ataru at Kataguri Cafe at 4 p.m. Lum's jealous and says she might move on from Ataru and be with Shutaro instead. Ataru pretends to care but immediately throws Lum into Shutaro's arms, so Lum electrocutes Ataru and flies away. In a tree, Lum ponders about Otomo, and she overhears a conversation from the Ataru's male classmates that the girl who was going to pretend to be Otomo can't do the deed because she has a stomachache, so she had taken the 3,000 yen they paid her and pigged out. The boys head into class as Ataru prepares for his date with Otomo. He promises to take them out to dinner when he wins the 10,000 yen from Shutaro, and Shutaro taunts Ataru, which angers him. The boys are nervous as they can't bring themselves to tell Ataru the truth, as they're worried about Shutaro becoming the new class president. Lum refuses to help Ataru because she wants him to learn a lesson. At the cafe, Ataru awaits Otomo's arrival, and all his male classmates are sitting in separate booths along with Shutaro. Elsewhere, Lum thinks about Ataru's situation, and she starts getting second thoughts about the whole matter and feels terrible for him. After an hour passes, Shutaro tells Ataru he'll give him 15 more minutes, and if she doesn't show up, he will lose the bet. At the same time, tears fall down Lum's face as she thinks about how much pain Ataru must be feeling inside. As the time runs out, Shutaro declares his victory while Ataru sits in his booth in shame. Seconds later, Lum arrives dressed up as Otoko, surprising everyone, and Ataru's thrilled until he gets another look at Otoko and realizes it's Lum. Lum whispers into Ataru's ear that he should play along because she knows he doesn't want to look like a clown in front of everyone. He agrees, and they enact their role play. The two leave the cafe. When they are a decent distance away, Lum informs Ataru that everything was a prank, and the two get into a small argument. Lum notices another couple holding hands in front of them. Meanwhile, Ataru can't believe he owes her a favor, but he looks at Lum again and questions if she's always looked this pretty. Before Lum flies away, Ataru grabs her hand and suggests they continue walking together a bit longer. The following day, Lum receives a transmission from her father. Lum's father reminds her about their clan's annual showdown event. In the next scene, Lum informs Ataru that he'll be participating in Setsubun with her on her home planet, and she opens an interdimensional portal in his room, and the two arrive at her planet. Ataru and Lum link up with Lum's father. He and his people will battle an opposing faction deemed the Lucky Gods. Someone blows a horn, and the honest and Lucky Gods engage in a game of basket tower toss, which disappoints Ataru, but he spots one of Lucky God's female warriors and heads toward her. Lum tells Ataru to get away from her and confirms the red-hair girl's name is Benton and she is her friend. At Ataru's home, his mother is upset that they ate sukiyaki without him. Sherry arrives and tells them that he received a premonition that Ataru is in hell, and suggests that his parents must help Sherry guide Ataru's soul to heaven to honor his death, but before he can do so, he asks Ataru's mother to make him some sukiyaki. Lum is angered by Ataru's flirtatious attempts on Benton, and she plans to play along with Ataru despite Lum. Benton flirts with Ataru, and Lum loses control over her team's basket. After the battle ends, Lum's father announces the winner, and the Lucky Gods claim victory as Lum's father chooses Ataru to face punishment. At Ataru's house, his parents and Sherry finish their second round of sukiyaki, and Ataru's mother threatens him to proceed with the ritual since Sherry wants to depart. Sherry summons a vision that allows them to peer into Ataru's whereabouts, and his family and Sherry notice Ataru strapped to a pole while being pelted with items, and they believe that Ataru's in hell. We see Ataru waking up from a cold next to Shinobu, and suddenly everyone from Shutaro to Cherry starts arriving at his room. Shutaro and some students are furious that Lum isn't with Ataru, and he tells them that Lum went to Neptune to visit an old friend. Suddenly, cold weather engulfs Ataru's room, and Shutaro opens one of Ataru's closets, causing an avalanche to shower everyone with snow. Ataru's schoolmates dig away in the snow to find Ataru held by a mysterious girl, and Sherry plans to exorcise the girl because he thinks she's a demon, but Shutaro stops him, and the girl reveals that Ataru's closet now houses a mysterious portal to her world. She asks if anyone can guide her back to her place, and they accept. Ataru and his friends follow the girl. Ataru tells one of his friends that Lum turned his closet into an interdimensional passageway the other day, and Shutaro comments how the entrance has vanished, so they can't turn back now. The girl tells the group not to fall behind because the passage they're traversing now crosses through dimensions. They reach a large hole, and the girl hears two cries for help. Someone points out that one of the voices is Lum's, and the girl hops into the hole, while Ataru and the others follow suit. Lum rushes to Ataru's aid but asks why he came here and confirms that they're on Neptune. It appears the girl they were following was her old friend Oyukai. Other girls ask Ataru's male classmates and Shutaro to shovel away at the snow. Tetsuro, Lum, Shinobu, and Cherry follow Oyuki into her mansion. Inside, Oyuki says they opened an interdimensional hole to dispose of all the snow they have to shovel on her planet. She reveals her undergarments and plans to prepare tea for everyone. Ataru is infatuated by Oyuki's pleasant demeanor and dashing appearance, and Lum electrocutes him out of jealousy, causing Ataru to leave the area. Ataru recounts how Oyuki's better than Shinobu and Lum because she's kinder, and Oyuki takes Ataru to a room because she notices he has a fever. Ataru and Oyuki put the moves on each other, but before they do anything further, Oyuki's manservant Bibo breaks one of the room's walls and attacks Ataru, and he realizes that Bibo's a Yeti. Oyuki informs Ataru that Bibo views her like an elder sister and doesn't like men showing affection toward her. Bibo chases Ataru to the interdimensional hole and returns to Ataru's home. Several hours later, Tomobiki Town's citizens and news crew cover the events unfolding at Ataru's household. Bibo is holding Ataru atop his house, making it look like a parody of King Kong. Bibo and Ataru yell while Lum, Oyukai, and the others look at them. The next day, Shinobu reads an article covering the event, while Ataru's wrapped up in bandages as Lum scolds him. Oyukai and Bibo stand inside Ataru's closet, and Ataru asks Oyukai and Lum to close off the interdimensional passageway to prevent him from getting more sick. Shinobu wonders what happened to Shutaro as he hasn't appeared in school for days. We discover Shutaro stayed on Neptune to continue shoveling the snow to appease Neptune's women, revealing the countless piles of snow he dug up. But we see some fish-like monster noticing Ataru heading toward him. He's bewildered by Ataru's presence since he's never had someone visit him in a long time. Sometime earlier, Ataru arrives at Shutaro's family hotel's pool area and can't wait to converse with some ladies, and he chats with Shutaro and Cherry, who appear as vegetables in Ataru's mind since he doesn't want to see half-naked men. Lum and Shinobu arrive in their swimsuits, and Shutaro compliments Lum on her attire, and Shinobu threatens to hurt Shutaro for not complimenting her, so he does so. Meanwhile, Sakura belittles the gang for their childish behavior, and Ataru attempts to grab Sakura, but she knocks him into the pool. Lum glares at the water, and wonders if Sakura punched him too hard because he hasn't returned for air. In the present, the water creature begs Ataru to stay and makes him some tea, and Lum dives into the pool to rescue Ataru. The creature turns around and mistakes Lum for Ataru. Meanwhile, everyone is astounded by how many drinks Sakura had. Ataru returns to the surface and asks Sakura to exorcise a creature in the pool as he believes it's a demon, while the monster prepares to get some snacks for Lum to eat, but he learns he's run out and promises to grab some more at the store up top. The monster reaches the surface and startles everyone, and Ataru and his friends head to exorcise the creature but discover it has departed. We receive banter between the characters as the fish monster heads toward them with more snacks, and the monster can't believe so many people are at his home. Eventually, they all spot the monster, and Shutaro demands it to leave his family's pool at once. The monster asks why, but Shutaro can't say because he needs some air, and Shutaro heads up top with the creature in his hand. More people see it and flee out of fear. Lum and Ataru feel terrible for the monster, but Shutaro demands it leave, and Shutaro puts his foot down, resulting in the monster packing his belongings. Lum asks what it plans to do now, and the monster suggests he'll search for a new peaceful home. Lum and Ataru wave goodbye to the monster and head home. Before Ataru showers, he spots the creature in his tub, and creature greets him and says he can't wait to become neighbors. We see Lum and Ataru preparing to head for the beach, and Ataru's mother stops them and asks Ataru to dispose of the monster when he gets there. It turns out it's been staying in their bathtub for a month, and Ataru proposes leading him somewhere else, but his mother doesn't want it causing panic in Tomobiki Town, and Ataru's mother promises to ship the creature's belongings to him when he finds a new home. At the beach, the monster greets Shutaro and Shinobu. Ataru and the creature depart from the group to find the monster a new home. Meanwhile, Sakura and a boy named Tsubame are conversing at a beach house nearby, and a waiter stops by with a mountain of spaghetti. Tsubame promises Sakura can have it for free if she finishes it all, and Sakura surprises everyone by completing it all and even asks for seconds. At the same time, Ataru and the monster head toward a rocky area on the beach. The monster waves goodbye to Ataru and thanks him for helping him find a new home, and the creature can't help but feel lonely until he hears Tsubame and Sakura heading toward him. As the monster stares at them from afar, Sakura reveals that she can't wait to get engaged to Tsubame, but before the creature could greet them, Ataru stops him. Ataru promises to show the monster how to greet humans properly. At the same time, Tsubame reflects on how it's been challenging to reunite with Sakura because of her work and nosy uncle. Eventually, Lum, Shinobu, and Shutaro arrive without Sakura and Tsubame's knowledge and spy on them, while a straw hat-wearing boy with a box notices Ataru and the monster. The boy's jealous that Ataru has a pet to hang out with instead of him, and the boy says he's upset that he must abandon his pet Pochi because of his mother's wishes. He hopes that by leaving his pet on the beach, maybe someone else can take him in, but before Sakura and Tsubame kiss, she stops because she feels like someone's watching them, and Tsubame tells her not to worry about it as they proceed. The creature heads toward them, pausing Ataru to grab the monster and ask for them to proceed to kiss. Meanwhile, Pochi's owner stumbles upon two kids ridiculing a small turtle, and he continues looking for a better spot to place Pochi as Ataru Lum, and the monster pass by. The boy notices them and wishes he didn't have to get rid of Pochi, and the gang meets and has a final meal together with the monster. Shutaro wonders if the monster's trying to guilt-trip them to keep him around, and the boy leaves Pochi near Ataru and his friends and hopes they can give Pochi a loving home. Ataru suggests the monster hop inside a box, and the boy turns around and sees Ataru holding a box, and he assumes Ataru has decided to adopt Pochi. As he walks away, he recounts all his fond memories with Pochi while shedding tears, and the kid runs back and swipes the box from Ataru's grasp. Shinobu notices Pochi's box and tells the others to have a look, and upon looking inside, they spot Cherry eating something, and they're all shocked. At home, Ataru receives a postcard from his mother because it's from the monster who seems to be having the time of his life with the boy, and it is revealed that the monster's taken the new title Pochi. We see Ataru's principal informing Ataru's teacher that a new transfer student will be arriving at his class today, and his teacher's flustered to discover that Lum is a transfer student. Lum's father promises Ataru's teacher that Lum will be on her best behavior. In class, Ataru's teacher introduces Lum to the class and everyone is thrilled, but Ataru ends up choking on a piece of food. Meanwhile, everyone goes outside to attend today's recreation day, while some female classmates frolic toward Lum. One of Ataru's friends asks him what sport appeals to Lum. Ataru doesn't care until someone mentions that another class received a good-looking transfer student, and the girl's name is Ran, and Ataru doesn't hesitate to introduce himself to her. Lum grabs Ataru and tells him he should be cheering for her instead. Lum glances at Ran with jealous eyes, but before Ran attends her sporting event, Lum walks past her and requests that she meet her behind the gym later. Later, Ran meets with Lum after class, and it turns out that they know each other, and Lum asks Ran if she transferred to the school to meet her. Ran admits that she does, but Lum asks why she wanted to meet her while disguised as a human, and Ran says it's integral that she did. We see a flashback to Ran on her spacecraft as she remarks how she was looking at old photos of her playing with Lum when they were children. In the present, Ran reveals that she and Lum once fell in love with a handsome stud named Ri, and Lum denies it, despite Ran confirming Lum was once engaged to Ri. Lum says it's all in the past, angering Ran, and she shows her true colors and reveals that she visited Earth to enact revenge on Lum, and Ran vows to steal Ataru from Lum and drain his life energy by making lip contact with him. Ran tells Lum not to inform anyone of her being an alien, and if she does, Ran promises to tell everyone that she wet the bed before. Ataru's teacher begins the scavenger hunt race, and Shutaro grabs a card indicating that he must find an electrifying beauty, and Ran obtains her card and asks for Ataru's assistance. Lum tries to prevent him from heading toward Ran, but Shutaro grabs her aside. Ran asks for Ataru to kiss her, but unfortunately Lum throws a block at Ataru to prevent him from kissing Ran. Ataru's teacher announces the next activity will be a cavalry battle, and they begin. With Lum on his and others' back, Ataru heads toward Ran to attempt to kiss her, and despite Ran and Ataru's efforts, Lum prevents them from kissing again. However, Ran kisses one of Ataru's classmates in the situation and drains their life energy. Later that day, Lum and Ran visit an area next to Tomobiki's bridge, and Lum requests that she leaves Ataru alone, but Ran steers the conversation into another memory. In a flashback, we see a younger Lum and Ran making wishes while staring at the stars, and they reveal their dreams to each other. They both wish to find the world's most wonderful husband. Ran brings up Ri again and gets infuriated by the fact that he only had eyes for Lum and not her, and Ran yells and vows to murder Ataru to get payback. Lum was standing near a tree, and she received a letter from Ran, who wanted to meet her at this location to inform her about something. Ran sends an android of herself to meet with Lum. The android reveals that Rand plans to return home and no longer wants to seek revenge on her, and she plans to hold a farewell party on Sunday and wants Lum to attend the fiesta with Ataru. Lum grows suspicious as Rand's robot asks that she doesn't tell him that she'll be going home, and the robot explodes and drops a map signifying the location of Rand's farewell party. On Sunday, Lum and Ataru arrive at Rand's party, and Rand shows them to her room and hands them some cookies and refreshments. Lum's worried about the meal having tranquilizers or something. When Rand heads into the kitchen to grab something, Lum notices one of Rand's sentient creatures that she's playing off as a mundane vase. Lum pours the cookies into his mouth to see if Rand puts something inside them. It turns out that Rand places something in the cookies as the creature falls asleep, and Rand returns with a cake and is furious that her plan didn't work. Lum heads into the kitchen to clean off their dishes, but behind the curtain, Lum knows Rand might try to seduce Ataru behind her back. Lum peeps through the curtain to spy on them, and Ataru suggests Rand kiss him while Lum's gone, but Rand doesn't want to upset Lum. Seeing Ataru egging Rand to kiss him angers Lum, and Rand heads into the kitchen and sees Lum cleaning the dishes. Rand glances at her oven and informs Lum to return to Ataru's side. As Lum heads back into Rand's room, she wonders if Rand gave up on taking Ataru from her. When Lum returns, she notices Ataru's missing, and he left a door wide open, and it turns out that Ataru went on a stroll. During his stroll, Ataru wonders why Rand's home looks off-putting. Meanwhile, we learn that Rand was baking an Ataru-looking android inside her oven, and Lum barges into the kitchen as Rand swiftly pushes her Ataru clone into the hallway. Ataru notices the clone and finds it strange, and Rand grabs the real Ataru and tells Lum he was here the whole time, and Lum grabs the real Ataru and plans to head home. At the same time, Rand enters the hallway and kisses the fake Ataru android because she believes it's the real one, and Rand realizes her mistake and yells as Lum tries dragging Ataru home. At night, Lum ponders over her encounters with Rand and wonders if she's really going home. The next day, Lum notices Rand and asks why she didn't go home, and Rand yells at Lum and says she hasn't finished getting her revenge yet. We see an Oni-like creature roaring into the sky while holding a Lum-looking toy. Cherry receives a premonition that something bad is about to happen as Ri has arrived on Earth. At Ataru's house, Lum and Ataru get into an argument over Shinobu. Cherry arrives and warns Ataru to flee the area as a monster is heading his way. Meanwhile, Shinobu encounters Ri and gets startled by his presence. Lum and Ataru continue arguing with each other until Ataru spots Shinobu at his window, but Shinobu's not alone as she's with Lum's ex-fiancé Ri, who startles everyone. He transforms into his human-like form to calm them down, and Ataru's mother storms into Ataru's room because she doesn't want him to cause trouble, and she finds Lum asking Ri to leave as Ataru introduces him to her. Ataru's mother is heartstruck by Ri's handsome looks, and Shinobu asks Lum why she doesn't like Ri. Lum argues that she doesn't like Ri's beast form and would rather spend her life with Ataru. This infuriates Ri immensely, and Ataru's mother returns with snacks and blushes when Ri takes her hand, and his mother notices his father depressed in the corner. The two rush down the stairs as Ataru's mother aims to explain herself, and Lum explains to Shinobu that she doesn't like Ri's slob-like nature and doesn't care if he looks attractive, and Lum hugs Ataru again, enticing Ri to transform into a beast again. Lum confronts Ri for his behavior as he takes out some toys, and someone translates his actions into words. It appears Ri traveled to Earth to propose to Lum, and Ri transforms into a human again and whips out a manual to help him propose to Lum. Lum continuously denies his attempts, hugs Ataru, and declares she'd rather spend her life with him, and this angers Ri transforms and chases Ataru and Lum out of the house and toward Tomobiki Park. We get brief instances of Lum and Ataru accidentally messing up different couples' attempts at proposing, and they encounter a man selling food, and this catches Ri's attention. Ataru's surprised as Lum says this is another aspect of Ri that she doesn't like. This routine continues as we eventually arrive back at Ataru's house. Ataru and Lum run upstairs, and we get another romantic encounter between his mother and Ri. Ataru's mother contemplates abandoning her husband and Ataru to live a life with Ri, but suddenly everyone with that Ri cause trouble arriving at Ataru's room, and the women share their affection for Ri while the food sellers and male spouses exhibit rage, and Ataru bewildered by his terrible luck. We see Lum is shocked by everyone's lackadaisical attitude during free time. Shutaro can't stand his classmates' laziness and dreads this hour of the day. Shutaro hears a call coming from his radio and believes it's his ticket out of there, but we learn Ri took control of the helicopter as he crashes it into Ataru's class. Meanwhile, Ran overhears Ri's voice while in another class and wonders if it's him, and Shutaro's shocked when Shinobu explains that the ox monster is Lum's ex-fiancé and that he's a handsome gentleman. Lum tells Ri to leave as Shutaro plans to protect her from Ri, and Lum tries to flee the classroom with Ataru, but gets her plans thwarted by Rand, who arrives at Ataru's class with a box lunch for Ri. Rand pulls Lum aside and asks Lum if she can hook her up with Ri since she's in love with him, and Lum complies. At the same time, Ri starts eating everyone's food, angering Shutaro, and reiterates that Lum couldn't possibly wed a beast as hideous as Ri. Ataru tells Shutaro to relax as Ri transforms into a human again and surprises Shutaro with his stunning looks, and upon seeing his human form, other girls frolic toward Ri's side and start handing him food. Meanwhile, Rand asks Lum to report on Ri's activities, and Lum can't stand his pig-like eating habits, but Rand argues that's what she adores about him, and Rand plans to give him her food. Shinobu approaches Ri and reminds him why he came to their school in the first place, and Ri transforms into a beast and pounces on Ataru, and promises him that he doesn't know where Lum went. Seeing him attacking Ataru, Lum orders Ri to back off, but before Ri attacks Ataru, he heads for Lum but gets stopped by Rand and gives him her box lunch, and Ri digs into the meal. When Ri finishes Rand's meal, she asks him if he liked it, but he ignores Rand and begs for Lum's attention. Lum can't believe Ri's ignoring Rand's feelings for him, but Rand tells Lum not to worry since Ri gave her lunch more respect. Suddenly Cherry arrives and gives Ri some food, and this enrages Rand, who can't believe Ri's treating Cherry's dish equally to hers. She leaves the room with tearful eyes, leading Lum to yell at Ri. However, Rand returns with another meal for Ri, and she asks him if he likes that more than Cherry's and if it's tasty. Ri shakes his head yes, but senses something wrong, and Cherry picks up on Ri's demeanor. Ri whispers something into his ear as Cherry explains that Ri's going home now that he's full of food. Ri jets out of the classroom, and Ataru wonders why he'd show up in the first place if he only required food, and Rand waves goodbye to Ri as Lum tells him to never return to Earth. At Ataru's house, Lum and Ataru notice his mother feeding Ri a meal. Ataru is infuriated because Ri said he was going home. Ri greets them and doesn't explain himself. Later, Ataru's mother and father discuss Ataru's school's Parent Day event. Ataru's father's thankful this was the case as he thought his wife wanted to file for a divorce so she can marry Ri, and Lum's mother pampers herself as she plans to attend the Parents' Day event herself. Ataru's mother arrives at Tomobiki High School to attend its Parent Day event. She couldn't convince her husband to attend. Meanwhile, a woman in an ox-carried cart shows up, leaving everyone in awe at her elegance. A spaceship arrives and lands atop the woman's cart, scaring her butler because he thinks she's dead, but thankfully she made it out alive as the spaceship door opens up. Lum's mother rushes out of her ship to greet Ataru's mother. At the same time, the butler squeals over how rude everyone's acting toward his mistress, and we learn that the woman that got crushed by Lum's mother's spaceship is Shutaro's mother. Lum notices her mother and leaps out of her classroom to hug her, and Shutaro greets his mother's butler, but gets called upon by her mother. His mother tells him to complain to Lum's mother about her behavior, startling Shutaro, and she asks Lum to translate his mother's complaints to her mother. Shutaro recites the lines, but Lum tells her mother the opposite, and Shutaro's mother grows irritated and throws one of her gloves at Lum's mother. Shutaro explains that this means his mother wants to fight Lum's mother, and Lum translates her mother's words for Shutaro's mother. She asks her to reconsider the duel, but Shutaro's mother refuses, and Lum translates more from her mother, and Lum's mother's honored that Shutaro's mother would allow her son to propose to her, but she must refrain. At sunset, everyone starts heading home, and Ataru's mother tells Ataru to wake up since it's time to go. She's thankful he didn't do anything stupid, and Ataru makes a fourth wall-breaking remark, asking about his questionable screen time. Lum wakes up Ataru angrily. At breakfast, Ataru's father tells Lum he's thankful Ataru has someone like her around, and the two walk down the street as Lum greets some Tomobiki residents. A maple leaf falls in front of her, and one of Ataru's friends explains the concept of seasons to her, exciting Lum, and Ataru flirts with another girl, and Lum electrocutes him for trying to cheat. In class, Ataru tries impressing girls with some yo-yo tricks while Lum sues something for him, and Shutaro scolds Ataru for his childish behavior and tells him that it's possible Lum wouldn't give him the time of day anymore, and Ataru says he doesn't care. Lum stops sewing. Everyone thinks she's going to shock Ataru again, but Lum refuses, and Lum tells Ataru she's worried about him because of his dumbfounded personality. At night, Lum and Ataru argue about his poor wake-up habits, and Ataru tells Lum that he wishes he returned to being single and free. Lum shuts Ataru's light off and shares her goodbyes with Atar, and she flies off into the night with tears in her eyes. In the morning, Ataru's mother wakes Ataru up, and he wonders where Lum's. At school, everyone questions Ataru about Lum, but he doesn't know and he's more excited to woo women without getting electrocuted by Lum. When Ataru arrives home, he notices the little Lum doll Lum was working on in school the other day, and he wonders if Lum left. When heading to school, Shinobu spots Ataru with Lum's doll in his shirt pocket, and Ataru doesn't try flirting with any girls and acts strange. One of his friends takes Ataru's Lum doll in class, irritating him, and Shutaro proposes to Ataru that Lum possibly dumped him. Ataru believes that Lum has disappeared, causing everyone to go on a search quest for her, and Shutaro summons his police force to assist in their endeavors. During the hunt, someone tells Ataru that Lum returned to her home planet, and Ataru doesn't want to believe it. We receive a montage of Ataru visiting previous locations and remembering his fond memories with her, and Ataru arrives at the same tree where the maple leaf fell in front of Lum and worries he may never see her again. On a spaceship, Lum's parents assist her with renewing her passport so she can return to Earth. Lum's father asks her to consider coming home with them, but Lum refuses. Lum's father tampers with her radio, and Lum overhears Ataru crying in his room. It appears she rigged her doll with a microphone to spy on him, and Lum tells her mother she was worried about what would happen to Ataru when she went away. Ataru wakes up and heads down the same road with the maple leaf tree, and Lum makes her presence known. But Ataru refuses to let his emotions show, and Lum notices her doll in his shirt pocket and smiles. Ataru and Lum traveling through the Tonobiki shopping district and discuss how humans celebrate New Year's Eve, and a handkerchief lands on Ataru's face, and he learns a woman dropped it. He heads toward the woman's ox cart and tries heading inside. Her terrifying looks spook Ataru, Lum, and his classmates, and she laughs menacingly inside. At school, Ataru and Lum tell Shutaro what happened, but he's not buying it, and he ponders it over and feels he knows who they're referring to. While our characters enjoy at lunch, some men in black suits roll out a red carpet for the same girl who spooked Lum, Ataru, and the others. The girl approaches Shutaro as everyone glares at her beauty, and the girl clutches onto Shutaro and tells everyone that they're engaged. Shutaro's female classmates and Shinobu attack him because they're not happy he led them on. Shutaro approaches the girl because he's furious about what she's starting. Shutaro reveals that Ryoko's his sister and loves pulling pranks, and Ryoko explains that she took time off from school to deliver food to Shutaro. It took her about 4 days to travel from home to here via the ox cart, and Shutaro's bewildered by this and refuses to eat the food, upsetting Ryoko. Ataru offers to eat lunch in Shutaro's stead even though his friends are against it. Ryoko and Lum get into an argument because she wants to be the one to feed Ataru the food, and Shutaro butts in and tells Ryoko to stay away from Ataru. Ryoko and he gets into an argument. Ataru starts putting the moves on Ryoko to spite Shutaro, leading to more banter. Ryoko orders her men to lock Shutaro up in the class's locker, and he starts whining because of his mental condition. Although his male classmates think he's a loser, the female students find him charming, and Ryoko asks Ataru to visit the Shutaro family estate. Shutaro tells Ataru not to do it, but he's not budging. As everyone fights, Ryoko giggles as she finds her brother's disinterest in Ataru entertaining and arrives at the Shutaro estate, and Shutaro greets him. He warns him not to lay a finger on Ryoko, but suddenly Lum, Sakura, Shinobu, Oyukai, and Benton arrive at the party wearing kimonos. Unlike Ataru, Shutaro is happy to have them join in the festivities. As everyone looks around, Shutaro informs them that this isn't the main house. Only a tiny part of the Shutaro estate serves as his room, and Ryoko welcomes everyone from atop one of the roofs, and she informs them that an oshi meal has been made for them inside the party room. The gang heads inside and sits on the cushions. Benton and Ataru exit the room from the secret trapdoors, startling Lum and Shutaro. Everyone else gets pushed out of the room by a closing wall. Benton and Ataru find themselves alone on a conveyor belt. Meanwhile, Shutaro and the others wonder what's going on, and the family's agents split them up using a forklift with needles attached. Shutaro, Shinobu, and Lum find themselves trapped in a room with a bizarre man. At the same time, Benton and Ataru escape the conveyor belt area, and one of the men in black greets them, and they tell the two to follow the red arrows on the ground. Benton's had enough and goes in the opposite direction, and she gets caught with a net as one of the men places a sticker on it that reads failure. Ataru follows the arrows and meets up with Shutaro, Shinobu, Lum, and the strange man who we find out is his grandfather. Shutaro's grandfather offers them some tea. After they drink it, Ataru, Shinobu, and Shutaro get paralyzed, and it turns out he put an anesthetic in the drink. Lum's unaffected because she's an alien. Despite being paralyzed, Ataru notices Ryoko wandering by, and he tries to get her attention while hopping around like a monkey. The men grab Ataru and hoist him away. Lum tries chasing after him, but another agent leads her to another room with Sakura and Rie. They must compete in a mochi eating contest, and Lum loses the game and gets hurled into the air. Lum and Shinobu go searching for them and encounter Shutaro's father, and he locks them inside a dark room and hopes Shutaro's nyctophobic personality will kick in. He eventually pulls the lever and has Shutaro trapped in there alone, and he starts crying like a preschooler, exciting his father. He pulls it again to free him, and his father jumps in glee as Shinobu pulls the lever as soon as he makes contact with the wall. They trap his father inside the dark room and continue searching for the others, and Lum returns to the Shutaro estate and wonders what's happening. Ryoko and her family appear in a room, and it seems they're playing a board game with their guests as their pieces. Ataru and Oyuki end up in a lottery-based game hosted by Shutaro's grandfather, and he drops large weights on top of them equal to the numbers found on their tickets, but Oyuki freezes Ataru and Shutaro's grandfather because she's upset that she didn't receive any money. After several games, they all arrive at the party room, and Ryoko tells them to wait there as she presses a button, and this sends our characters into the sky and blows them up like a firework, and Ryoko is mesmerized by the fireworks. We see Ataru's family taking photos of Lum in her kimono dress, and Ataru grows jealous of the attention Lum's receiving from them and heads outside. Ataru notices a small child roaming around in his mailbox and takes him out. Ataru informs his family about the child, and the child notices Lum, who reveals to know something about the kid. We learn his name is Ten. He's Lum's little cousin, and Ten reveals he had someone deliver him to Ataru's household. Ataru and Lum head out to meet with Sakura, but Ataru's not happy that she brought Ten. He doesn't want him ruining his romantic escapades with Sakura, and Ten converses with Ataru and finds him unfit to be Lum's darling, and he breathes fire upon Ataru, causing him to run in pain. They'd arrived at Sakura's place, and Ten greets Sakura and Shinobu, and he wins them over with his charm, infuriating Ataru. Ran arrives, and Sakura reveals that Ran will work for her as a part-time shrine maiden. Unlike the other girls, Ran isn't happy that Ten's arrived, and Ten reveals that Ran lives right next door to his family. Ran deflects the others' suspicions of her being an alien like Lum. Sherry starts the Karuta card activity. Ataru starts putting his hand over the other female's hands, but before Ataru could put his hand over Ran's, Ten burns his hand with his fire breath, and they move on to holding a talent show. Lum tells Ten he should participate, and Ten shows off his flying skills and burns Ataru to a crisp for making a witty remark toward him. Ataru heads to the kitchen to cool off his wounds. Ran goes to the kitchen to check on Ataru, and thinks Ran cares for him, but Ran only shows compassion to get revenge on Lum. But before Ran and Ataru share an intimate moment, Ten lets out more flames on him. Ataru chases Ten down with some pans and plans to give the kid a beating, and Sakura grabs Ataru and flings him into the pond because of his poor behavior. Lum helps Ataru out of the water and giggles, and she knows Ten must be jealous because Ataru took Lum from him. Ten helps Sakura with her cooking, and Ten admits to having a crush on Sakura because of her kindness. In the next scene, Ten scribbles notes on a piece of paper. Ataru is annoyed by his actions because he's doing it loudly and can't study, and Ten throws something at Ataru, and the two get into a heated argument. Lum tells him to stop and asks Ten what he's doing anyway. Ten says he was writing a letter and asks Lum if she can translate this into Earthling for him, and it turns out it's a love letter to Sakura. Ten wants to meet up with her in the afternoon for a date at a cafe, and Ataru tells Ten to prepare for disappointment and rejection. Ataru offers to become Ten's love letter ghostwriter for unknown reasons, and Sakura arrives home and receives news from her mother about the letter. Sakura reads the letter and gets disgusted by the explicit things written in it. Sakura rips the letter and storms out of her place, and she plans to give the writer a piece of her mind, and Sakura arrives at the meetup location. Lum, Ataru, and Ten notice her from afar. Ataru is shocked because he thought the words written in it would scare Sakura off. Ten approaches Sakura, and she's dumbfounded after hearing him say he sent her the letter and promises Sakura he wrote the letter, and Sakura goes along with it because she doesn't want to harm a child. Ten and Sakura head out, and Ataru laughs behind the corner. He planned a saddening and adult-themed course for Ten. They'll have him getting his heart shattered by the end of his date with Sakura. Meanwhile, Ten and Sakura chat with each other. Sakura knows kids can be precocious but mean no harm, but she's startled to learn that Ten booked them to hang out at a raunchy club, and Sakura grabs Ten and runs away from the establishment. They attend a different cafe instead, but Ten cries because his plan didn't go accordingly. Sakura promises to adhere to his every demand if it'll make him happy. Ataru gets unhinged about this whole charade, and Sakura and Ten go to the movie theater as Ten wants him and Sakura to watch a mature-rated film. After more crying, Sakura concedes and watches the movie with him. Sakura finds the film boring and notices that Ten fell asleep, and she overhears Lum questioning the content of the film as Ataru yells at her to stop. Sakura grabs Ataru with brute force, and Sakura questions if Ataru is behind Ten's raunchy desires. Sakura drags Ataru out of the theater as Lum complains about not finishing the film. Ten wakes up and says it's time for him and Sakura to check into a hotel. Sakura questions Ataru about what dirty things he put into Ten's head. Ataru yells at Ten for ruining his plan as Sakura grabs a statue and throws it on top of Ataru. At night, Sakura and Ten sit on a bench and chat. Sakura said it was time for them to depart, but Ten suggests they go to a hotel, and Sakura questions Ten if he knows what he's implying by that idea. Ten asks Sakura if he can marry him, but Sakura says she can't. Lum points out Sakura's ring on her finger, indicating that she plans to marry someone. Ataru and Ten are devastated by this news, and Ten feels it's Ataru's fault for putting him in this situation and lets loose on him with flames, and Ataru trying to wipe the flames off himself. We see Ataru's teacher holding a meeting between faculty, and they plan to assault anyone who tries to break snacking rules established during the school's lunch break sessions. Someone from Ataru's class informs the others, and Ataru rallies his class to prepare for battle. When the bell goes off, the students prepare to break the snack rules, but Shutaro has students capture them before they commit the act. He informs them that he's formed a group called the Covert Civility Patrol to prevent students from breaking the rules. Ataru, Lum, and the others slip past them. Shutaro notices them escaping and has his group track them down. Ataru and the others head for the cat diner to get some snacks. Little do they know, Mr. Onsen set the place up as a trap for them, and the cat diner waitress tries to give Ataru hints that Mr. Onsen has devised a scheme to capture him and the others. Unfortunately, Ataru interprets her gesture as expressing love for him, but he looks at his palm and realizes she handed him a message telling him and the others to run. Mr. Onsen tries to grab them, but Ataru and the others flee. Shinobu and the other group tell Ataru that the other diners have been blocked off. Shutaro tries stopping them from the front, but Shinobu and the others girls coerce him into letting them go, and he lets Lum through too. Ataru and his boys dress up like girls to slip past Shutaro. Ataru and his friends head to another diner and spot Mr. Onsen capturing some students, but before he can get his hands on them, a detective and police officer catch him and interrogate him because they believe he's a pervert because of his odd cat costume. The officer escorts Mr. Onsen away. Suddenly, more students come rushing toward Ataru and the others, and they join them. While hiding, a shop owner tells Ataru and the others to hide in his shop, and Ataru spots one of his teachers tied up as the shop owner confirms he performed the act. A waitress hands Ataru a drink, and he tries flirting with her, and the cook finishes Lum's spicy food and she injects it into Ataru's mouth. Ataru rushes out of the diner begging for water with Lum trailing him from behind. The students and staff make one final stand against each other, and both factions calling it quits and planning to start another round tomorrow. In the next scene, the girls intend spending time at a diner, while Ataru spies on them behind the window and wonders how Ten can grab the attention of so many women. The girls discuss Sakura's fiance, Tsubame, and she shows them a picture of her and him together, and she confirms that Tsubame dabbles in black magic and likes wearing capes. Ten whips out his galactic online shopping center device, and we receive a commercial for a product called the Lovey-Dovey Crystal Ball. The product has the power to determine if your significant other is a perfect match for you or not, and Sakura thinks it's a garbage device, but Ten orders it anyways. Although Sakura doesn't want it, Shinobu asks for it instead. Ten tells her to look into its eye, and whoever she sees is the man she's destined to marry. Shinobu's surprised by who she sees, enticing Lum to check for herself. She sees Ri and is flabbergasted, and Ran checks the eye and sees Ataru. Sakura looks up and notices all three girls are devastated by who they saw. Lum and Ran don't want to tell each other who they saw. Shinobu wants to leave because she saw Tsubame and feels they're too far apart in age to date. This angers Sakura, who checks the ball for herself, and she notices Ataru and Shutaro in the ball and is completely stunned. Meanwhile, Tsubame, Shutaro, and Ataru hide under the table to spy on the girls. Sakura spots Shutaro and Ataru under the table and tells them to hear her out, and she refuses to believe that she's destined to be with them because of their age differences. She tells them it's a serious crime and that she doesn't want to end up in prison. Lum starts yelling at Sakura but gets into a conflict with Ran because she saw Ri, so Ten leaves the shop as he doesn't want to start any more trouble. Suddenly, a news broadcast appears on Ten's device, alarming buyers that they shipped out the Trouble Couple crystal ball instead of the real product, and this ball shows people they should avoid marrying at all costs. The shopkeeper sends the real product to all his buyers, and Ten receives the product, but chooses to let the insanity ensue. Lum shocks the daylights out of Ataru and Ten wants to buy a new fantasy gun product from the shop owner. All the students playing baseball for the Tomobiki High School tournament, and Ataru plans to throw the match, allowing him to score 10 free pool tickets when it's concluded. Ataru pitches the ball, and Shutaro hits a foul shot. The ball ends up knocking out a wandering samurai boy who happens to be spying on them in a tree. The boy falls out of the tree, causing everyone to rush to his aid, and Shutaro recognizes the samurai boy, who happens to be named Tobimuro Mizunokoji. He's the heir to the Mizunokoji sports empire. Shutaro shares intel about his and Tobimuro's family's cultural descendants, and Tobimuro's clan are descendants of the nobility while Shutaro's family are descendants of the samurai. Their clans didn't get along well, resulting in Shutaro and Tobimuro treating each other as enemies when they were kids. That all changed when Shutaro proved to Tan that a bat deals more damage than a baseball, and Tan says he spends his life training in baseball on the mountaintops. Once a year, he challenges Shutaro to a match, and they tangled in 11 matches that resulted in stalemates. Shutaro's sister Ryoko shows up and asks Ataru to let Tan join his team to fulfill his yearly battle quota with Shutaro, and Ataru asks why she's willing to help Tan out, and Ryoko says that Tan's the first man she's ever loved. This results in Ataru and Shutaro beating on Tan despite him saying Ryoko's lying. Shutaro says he'll allow Tan to compete if it means Ryoko will stop pursuing him as a romantic interest, and Ryoko accepts, but Ataru wishes to test Tan's skills before they continue with the game. Although Tan is a horrible baseball player, Ataru allows him to join their team since it'll bode well on his master plan alluded to earlier, and they continue playing, and Ataru informs the audience that both teams have scored 0 points. Despite missing the first hit, Ryoko allows her guards to interfere with the game. This leads to them grabbing the ball from Shutaro's hand, having it tap Tan's bat, and then running away to make it look like he hit a home run. Ataru chases and grabs a hold of the guard with the ball and makes a run for the home base before Tan reaches it. All 3 men fall into a trefoil created by Ryoko's other guard, and Shutaro yells at Ryoko for liking someone as foolish as Tan. Tan hiding under the Shutaro estate's bridge, and Shutaro's family guards notice that Shutaro's late for his daily routine of walking with the octopuses. Ryoko arrives and takes the mantle in her brother's steed. As she's walking over their family estate's bridge, Tan throws a dumbbell with a letter attached to it. It bonks one of the octopus heads. Ryoko picks up the letter and reads it, and Tan wanted Shutaro to meet him at the Mizunokoji Athletic Land at noon. Ryoko mistakes it as a love letter from Tan though. Shutaro arrives at the scene exhausted, startling Ryoko, and he explains he's tired because Ryoko had entrapped him with a case of cement. Shutaro tells Ryoko that she's forbidden from leaving the estate after seeing Tan's letter in her hands. Ryoko has one of the guards provide her with some TNT to blow Shutaro away. Afterward, Ryoko says she can't wait to meet Tan again. Meanwhile, Ataru, Lum, and his family are enjoying a meal, but suddenly Ryoko's guard crashes the party and informs Ataru that Ryoko wants to speak with him. On the phone, Ryoko asks Ataru for some help, and Ataru says he'd be more than happy to assist. One of the guards grabs him and places him inside a larger canister, and Lum chases them down and reads the letter Ryoko dropped about Tan wishing to meet at Mizunokoji Athletic Land. In the canister, Ryoko tells Ataru she's being hunted by her brother for no good reason. At Mizunokoji Athletic Land, Tan awaits his fight with Shutaro atop large wooden cylinders. He tries getting down but is seemingly afraid of heights. Lum arrives and offers him a hand, despite Tan not wanting a girl's help. But suddenly Ryoko calls out to him, startling Tan. Lum drops Tan, but he's saved by one of Ryoko's guards. She holds on Tan tightly while he questions why Shutaro didn't show up to their showdown. Tan's curious about Ryoko's flirtatious attempts as she reveals that she used Ataru to prevent her brother from not interfering with their romantic affairs. Although Ataru tries fleeing with Ryoko, the guard stops him, and it turns out the guard accompanying Ryoko was Shutaro as he reiterates his distaste for Tan getting romantic with his sister. After sharing how much training he went through on a daily basis, Shutaro tells Tan that he'll accept him being his sister's boyfriend, puzzling Tan. Before Tan can set Shutaro straight, Shutaro says he must defeat him in a fight to earn his sister's hand, but before Shutaro slices Tan with his sword, Ataru interferes and declares he'll be the one to take his sister's hand. After Shutaro's knocked out for a bit, Ataru grabs Ryoko. Lum pursues him along with Shutaro, and the two team up to capture Ataru before he departs. Lum lifts him and Ryoko into the air, and Ryoko frees herself from Ataru's grasp and lands on Tan's face. Shutaro grabs his sister away from Tan. Tan gets up and tells Shutaro that he's not interested in having a romance with Ryoko, and Tan tells him he wanted to have a showdown with Shutaro. Even after Lum reads the letter aloud, Shutaro believes Tan's letter was a love letter, and the two bicker about it and engage in combat. It's revealed that this isn't the first time Ryoko interfered with Tan's attempts at fighting Shutaro. After some wacky antics, Shutaro stops chasing Tan and says he'll allow him to pursue his sister, but Tan states that he's not interested in girls. Lum checks up on Ran's progress in winning Ri's heart, but Ran mistakes her kindness as Lum wants to get back with Ri. Later, Ran visits Ri in space to enjoy a fabulous dinner with him, and Ran understands that Ri may only like her for her meals, but she's okay with that as long as she can spend time with him. Afterward, Lum visits Ran on her spaceship and wonders if she's cooking up a scheme. Ran tells Lum that Ri kissed her and Lum congratulates her, so Lum leaves happy because she no longer needs to worry about getting harassed by Ri. Upon arriving at Ataru's place, Lum notices Ri, who is dying to see her again, and Lum gets upset and says he should spend time with Ran since he kissed her. Ran shows up at Ataru's place and notices Lum and Ri together. Injuring her, Ran starts getting upset when Ri forgets their kiss. Ran cries about the situation while Ri notices some food crumbs on her lips. He proceeds to kiss Ran again, resulting in her looking shocked. Ran screams to the heavens that this is the happiest moment of her life. Ran and Lum having tea at a parlor, and Ran says she likes spending time with Lum since she's her only friend on Earth, but Lum argues she doesn't like hanging out with Ran because of her consistent personality swaps. Ran argues Lum's to blame for that as we get sent into a flashback to when they were kids. Lum had arrived at Ran's spaceship for a sleepover. Ran's mother tells Ran not to wet the bed and for both girls to get a good night's sleep. When she leaves, Lum wets the bed. However, she places Ran in the spot to put the blame on her. Ran's mother yells at Ran for wetting the bed and leaving a stain on it. When Ran's mother leaves, Lum comforts her and promises to give her her favorite doll. Ran spends the night at Lum's spaceship and is thrilled to have a new doll, and they head to sleep, and Lum pulls the switcheroo gimmick because she wet the bed again. In the morning, Ran's mother arrives to see if Ran's causing Lum's family any trouble. Lum's mother tells her there's nothing to worry about while hanging laundry. Ran's mother notices a urine stain on Lum's blanket and yells at Ran. In a flashback, we see Lum and Ran throwing rocks at a space creature and fleeing, and whoever falls behind has to treat the loser to ice cream. Although Ran fell behind, Lum promised to pay for her ice cream because she got her into trouble with the monster. Unfortunately, Lum lies to Ran and asks her to pay for the ice cream. In the present, Lum's angry with Ran for sharing stories that paint her as an ill person. In response, Lum shares a tale where she took the fault for destroying Ran's mother's doll with darts. Ran's mother blamed Ran for the incident because Lum was holding her darts. In the present, Ran says Lum treated her like a footstool and lived a better life than her, and Lum starts feeling bad for treating Ran terribly. Lum leaves the parlor and Ran gets stopped by the waiter because she forgot to pay for her meals. We see Ataru, Shutaro, Shinobu, and Lum visiting the beach, and they spy on two people getting flustered over the ocean's current. Ataru and his friends greet the two and take them to their cafe, and the man introduces himself and his son Ryunosuke to them and says he'll take over the cafe one day. Ryunosuke's father explains that their business and the ocean work in unison. Each summer the ocean's waves get intense, causing their family business to lose sales. Ataru and Shutaro feel it's best to depart and let Ryunosuke and his father deal with the issue themselves. Before Ataru and his friends leave, they overhear Ryunosuke and his father bickering about the family business again, and Ryunosuke says he doesn't want to live like a man and reveals that he's a woman. Ataru and Shutaro rush back to Ryunosuke's cafe to confirm this information, and Ataru tells Lum that he wants to help Ryunosuke out. Ataru and Shutaro flirt with Ryunosuke and she beats them up, and Ryunosuke looks at Lum and Shinobu and says she's jealous of their girly demeanor. She wishes she could wear female clothing, but her father wants her to be more masculine so she can run the family business properly. After seeing them bicker over trivial things, Ataru and his friends attempt to leave again, but Ryunosuke's father convinces them to help them out in exchange for a free meal. Ryunosuke and her father get into a fistfight and knock each other out. Lum and her friends argue that their first step in helping these two out is to prevent them from fighting. Ryunosuke and her father wake up and learn they've been chained up, and Lum says they should try to talk things out instead of using their fists. Unfortunately, Ryunosuke and her father don't listen, resulting in the cafe collapsing due to their overwhelming strength. Ataru and his friends call it quits and leave the beach. A week passes and we see Ryunosuke and her father enter Tomobiki town and get into a fight. Ataru and Lum spot the pair and greet Ryunosuke's father, and he explains they're looking for ways to make cash since they need to rebuild their cafe. They plan to work at a live-in job at Ataru's school's supply store. Ryunosuke will be attending classes with Ataru and his friends. Ryunosuke's father offers her a chance to attend school in a sailor uniform, but she must defeat him in a fight. She fights her father but loses due to Ataru's interference. Ataru's teacher introduces Ryunosuke to the class, and she's wearing a boy's uniform, and the girls mistake her for a male. Shutaro grows concerned as he now has competition. Shutaro, Ataru, and two other boys meet up and plot to put Ryunosuke in a sailor uniform. Ataru and the boys meet Ryunosuke's father, batter him, and retrieve the sailor uniform. Ryunosuke discusses his livelihood with some female classmates and wishes she could wear a sailor uniform like them. Ataru and his friends present Ryunosuke with a sailor uniform. Although she's grateful for their offer, she wants to defeat her father in the fight before wearing it. Ran arrives and catches Ryunosuke's attention. She represents the girls she idolized as a kid. When Ran leaves, Ryunosuke asks Lum how she can get in touch with Ran. Ryunosuke slips a letter toward Ran, who thinks it's a love letter from her. Ran plans to meet Ryunosuke and wonders how she should approach her. Lum tells Ran that Ryunosuke's a girl, angering Ran because she thinks Lum's trying to make a fool out of her. Ran approaches Ryunosuke and says she'd like to go out with her, angering Ataru. At the school gate, Ryunosuke hopes she can learn how to become someone like Ran and make a sailor uniform look good. Ran arrives. Ryunosuke asks her if she teaches her everything she needs to know about women. Ran laughs. She still believes Ryunosuke's a boy and is acting perverted toward her. They head to a cafe to have parfaits. Ryunosuke tries mimicking Ran's posture while eating the dessert, but Ataru butts in. Ran notices Lum, and they head into the restroom to discuss things. Ran believes Lum has feelings for Ryunosuke, but Lum assures her she's only here because Ataru wants to spy on Ryunosuke. Ryunosuke and Ran go on a boating trip, but that gets ruined by Ataru. Afterward, Ran confronts Lum about her annoyance with her. Ryunosuke looks at them from afar and feels she has more things to learn, and Ryunosuke vows to become womanlike so she can wear a sailor uniform. Ryunosuke plans to purchase herself a bra with the money she saved. Meanwhile, three men start taking photos of Shinobu as she's walking down a pathway alone, and she notices them, flees, and bumps into Ryunosuke. She asks Ryunosuke to stay with her for a while. She notices Ryunosuke is feeling down and explains that she couldn't afford a bra because it cost about 1,000 plus yen. Shinobu comforts her and says she could try saving up 100 more yen to purchase one at a bargain bin. The men following Shinobu reveal themselves as high schoolers from Butsumetsu High, and they tell Shinobu that their boss is interested in going out with her. Shinobu declines their boss's offer, upsetting them, and they tell Shinobu that their boss is persistent about dating her, and Shinobu warms up to date their boss, but she leaves after seeing what their boss looks like in a photograph. At their boss's hideout, he preaches about his love for Shinobu, and his minions plan to snap photos of Shinobu with her boyfriend, hoping their boss will let his feelings go. At Tomobiga High, Shinobu explains to Ataru and his friends that she and Ryunosuke will be going on a date to help the Butsumetsu High boys out with their boss's affection. Ryunosuke meets with the boys who promise to give her 5,000 yen in exchange for those photos, and the men ask Ryunosuke and Shinobu to strike several poses that make them look like a romantic couple. Ryunosuke starts getting carried away and gets slapped by Shinobu. While taking photos at the cafe, Ataru interrupts one of the photo sessions, so Ryunosuke punches Ataru and tells him to mind his business. Ataru shows Ryunosuke a bra that she could have if she stops her date with Shinobu. Lum electrocutes Ataru for trying to intermingle with her, allowing the Butsumetsu boys, Shinobu, and Ryunosuke to flee. They try taking photos near a water fountain, but Ataru finds them. To make matters worse, the Butsumetsu boys' boss shows up and tries to have his way with Shinobu. Shinobu knocks him out, surprising everyone except Ataru. The Butsumetsu boys' 5,000 yen flew into the air during the dispute. Ryunosuke tries to retrieve it, but it lands on Cherry's cat friend's head. His friend places it on a grill, and it disintegrates. The Butsumetsu boys' boss gets up and wants to smooch Shinobu. The boys steal Ataru's bra bag and offer it to their boss. Ataru and Ryunosuke attempt to swipe it back, but the Butsumetsu boys' boss eats it, and Ataru's mother reveals that it was hers. An anthropomorphic star crashes into Ataru's home as he, his family, and Lum eat, and the star, deemed the wishing star, says he's come to grant them 3 wishes due to them being poor. Ataru's parents pay the wish no mind as they're furious about the wishing star's rudeness. Feeling terrible about what he caused, the wishing star hands Ataru's father a star sticker on him to write his wish, and he wishes for the house to be turned to normal, and the wishing star grants it. After seeing his magic, Ataru's family welcomes him with open arms. While everyone bickers over the second wish, Sherry uses it for food. The wishing star says he can't accept cancellations and they only have 1 more left. Ataru tries taking the wishing star to his room, but his mother catches him in his cunning act. She retrieves the wishing star's belongings to avoid Ataru making a foolish wish. In his room, Ataru attempts to make a wish, but the wishing star denies it. Ataru and Lum meet with Ataru's parents to discuss the wish, and the wishing star tells them they have until dawn to make the wish. The wishing star helps himself to some refreshments in Ataru's family's fridge. Ataru's mother says they should hold the lottery to decide who gets to make the final wish, and they hold the lottery, and Ataru's father wins. Ataru's mother checks what her husband wants to wish for, and it's revealed that he'd like to redo his life. Ataru and his mother decide that it'll be better to wish for money and head to the kitchen, and everyone finds the wishing star sleeping after drinking multiple cases of beer. Sherry inserts a wish sticker into its mouth, asking the wishing star to wake. He wakes up but flees since Ataru's family has no more wishes left, so Ataru and his parents in shambles. We see Lum creating lipstick on her ship. Once it's complete, Lum leaves and heads to Ataru's home. When she arrives, she attempts to put lipstick on Ataru's lips, but suddenly Ten arrives and gets roped into their antics. Lum marks Ten with lipstick and accidentally kisses him, and Ataru realizes Lum's lipstick has a type of magnetic pull. Ataru grabs Lum's lipstick and throws it. Lum and Ten head after the lipstick, but Ataru reveals he has the lipstick. At school, Ataru looks for a girl to put lipstick on and spots Ryanosuke, and he tells Ryanosuke to put it on since he knows she's unaware of how to act feminine. Ryanosuke puts it on and hands the lipstick back to Ataru, and he puts it on and tries locking lips with her, but Ryanosuke punches him. Lum arrives and Ataru gets attracted to her since she's still wearing the lipstick. Before they kiss, Ataru's male classmates grab him, upsetting Lum. Eventually, everyone discovers the lipstick's power, and Ataru's female classmates grab it and try putting it on Shutaro. Shutaro refuses but warms up to the idea since it'll help him get close to Lum. After Shutaro puts the lipstick on, chaos ensues, leading to Shutaro and Ataru kissing each other, the students, teachers, and Ten getting pulled to each other and tries to run. Ataru's classmates deciding to play Yamane for next week's recreational activity. Lum asks what it's about, and Ataru explains it to her. It's Russian roulette where everyone throws random items into a hot pot and then eats it in the dark, and Lum questions the game's validity, but Ataru says not knowing what it tastes like is the thrill of the game. At Ataru's, Lum makes some strange alien food and tries feeding it to Ataru. After some cat and mouse chase segments, she gets him to eat her food. It causes his lips to swell up, infuriating Ataru. At night, Ataru asks Lum what her least favorite food is, and he wants to know so he can get even with her. Lum tells him she hates Chompomp and points toward the planet that carries it. The next day, Ten says he'd get Ataru the Chompomp, but it'll take him 10 days. Ataru settles on getting Lum to eat weird earthly concoctions in hopes that it will cause her pain. Ataru takes Lum to different eateries to see if she finds anything disgusting. Surprisingly, nothing affects Lum. He asks Lum about her taste in Earth food, and she says everything on Earth has mild flavoring and doesn't know what it tastes like. Two men order some gyoza, and this causes Lum to flee because of its horrid smell, and Ataru examines the dish and wonders if Lum doesn't like the smell of garlic, and he eats the customer's dishes and departs. After testing out his horrid breath on a few women, Ataru arrives home and tries engulfing Lum with his garlic breath. Lum retaliates by spraying air freshener. At night, Ataru finds some leftover gyoza in the fridge and plans to put it in the Yamane pot for tomorrow's event. At school, everyone starts putting their ingredients into the pot. Ten arrives at the school with the chonkot because he ran into a vegetable salesman who sold it to him. The lights turn off and everyone starts eating. Ataru's teacher arrives after getting a whiff of the classroom. Ataru, Shinobu, and Lum are left unfazed, while the others are knocked out from the food they've eaten. Ataru ends up grabbing the Chonkampo, which turns into a carnivorous plant. We see Shutaro, Ataru, Lum, Shinobu, Ryanosuke, and others arriving at his family's mansion, and he introduces them to his family's octopus habitat and explains that they represent the family's symbol of happiness. Ataru isn't impressed, so Shutaro takes him and the others to his family's freezer room to meet the Arctic octopuses, his family's greatest treasure. The Arctic octopus jumps out of the water, but Ataru and his male classmates aren't impressed. Shutaro and Ataru get into an argument after Ataru insults Matsuchio. Matsuchio runs away during their banter, and Shutaro calls for a hunt. Ataru and his friends aren't interested in helping until Shutaro says he'd grant them anything they want if they assist him. Therefore, they all head to the jumbo room to look for Matsuchio, but suddenly animals start attacking everyone but Shutaro. Lum electrocutes the animals to scare them off, while Shutaro apologizes for not telling them about the creatures, but a creature grabs Ataru's friend Kosuke and drags him into its habitat. Ataru and the others split up to find him. Lum and her group find Kosuke get ambushed by the creature. Meanwhile, Ataru and his group plan to find a fake Matsuchiyo in the jungle to give to Shutaro, and they grab a few monkeys and hear Shinobu screaming. They head to an open area of the jungle and see Matsuchiyo holding Lum, Shinobu, and Ryanosuke hostage. Ataru and the others are shocked that Matsuchiyo is bigger than normal. Shutaro arrives and explains that Matsuchiyo's kind grows larger when exposed to high temperatures. Ataru and his friends rush Matsuchiyo with wooden mallets but get caught. Matsuchiyo starts getting touchy with the girls, so Lum bites and electrocutes him. Matsuchiyo lets everyone go and Shutaro approaches him with open arms, while Shutaro gets crushed by Matsuchiyo's grasp. Ataru eats his lunch in class, and Ten shows up and nags Ataru about his food. Ataru feeds him a pickled plum from his dish, and Ten starts feeling strange as Shinobu realizes Ataru fed him something with beer ingredients. Ataru asks his friend to hand him his food to prove he didn't feed Ten booze. He lets Lum try pickled plum, and she undergoes a drunken tangent, and she demands all the boys to give her some pickled plums. She eats them into parts. Shutaro and a few boys look for Lum, while Ataru looks for Ten. Shutaro finds Lum and tells her that Ataru's looking for Ten, upsetting her, and Ansen Mark, Ataru's homeroom teacher, stumbles upon Lum, Shutaro, and the others and sees her acting drunk. He tells Shutaro and the others that he'll be searching through their belongings to see who brought alcohol on campus. Shutaro and Ansen Mark get into an argument. He tells Ansen Mark if he finds any booze in their belongings, they'll dance at school naked. Ataru and his friends stumble upon Ten, who lets out a giant flame, and Sakura finds them lying around and Ten notices her. Ataru and his friends protect Sakura from Ten's flames. Shiri arrives at the school with booze and Sakura drinks it. Ataru flirts with Sakura, upsetting Lum. She electrocutes Ataru and leaves with Cherry's booze. At the same time, Ansen Mark looks through the boys' desks and doesn't find anything. However, Lum flies into the same classroom with the booze, proving Ansen Mark's theory, and pure chaos erupts in the classroom from Lum shocking Ataru to some males trying to get Shutaro unclothed. We see 3 space girls plotting to attack Benton, Lum, and Oyukai. Benton flying over a planet and spotting someone's unconscious body, and a strange toxin fills the air and knocks her out. Meanwhile, Oyukai tells Lum that Benton's missing. Lum heads to Ataru's place and ponders about Benton's situation, but suddenly she spots Benton in his home. Benton tells Lum that she lost her chain and is hunting for it. Benton and Lum head to Oyuki's home to discuss the situation further, and Benton explains her circumstances surrounding the pink mushroom forest and the woman she found unconscious. This happened a week ago, and she recalls waking up to the woman having disappeared alongside her chain. But before Benton embarks on a hunt to find the woman and her chain, Oyuki presents her with a package from an unknown sender. It contains a videotape, and Lum, Oyukai, and Benton watch it. In the tape, 3 girls named Ginger, Sugar, and Pepper introduce themselves to our trio. They're known as the 3 rowdy punksters from Planet Middle School. Their mission is to become as hardcore, if not more so, than Lum and her friends. In a flashback, we see how rowdy Lum, Oyukai, and Benton were during their school days. Sugar reveals she has Benton's chain in her possession, and they challenge Lum, Oyukai, and Benton to a duel to see who is the real rowdiest punkster of all time. Benton breaks Oyuki's television and flees Oyuki's homeworld to search for these troublemakers. Oyukai and Lum follow her. Meanwhile, Sugar, Ginger, and Pepper discuss their worries about challenging Lum, Oyukai, and Benton. The former plan to rely on their supercomputer called the Salt to claim victory. At the same time, Oyukai and Lum catch up with Benton, but she doesn't want them to get involved. Oyuki shares some kind remarks with Benton, who always took Oyuki as cold-hearted, but she retracts her statement when Oyuki gives her an invoice to pay for the damages to her television. Lum tells Benton she forgot to take the map to Sugar and her friend's duel spot, came with the videotape. Benton and her friends meet Sugar and her pals in a cafe on Earth. Benton and her friends question Sugar and her allies' weird behavior. Suddenly, Sugar and her allies leave the cafe with Benton's chain. Benton and her friends chase after them in Tomobiki Town. Lum electrocutes a tree to stop Sugar and her friends in their tracks. Ginger and Pepper abandon Sugar with Benton's chain. Sugar tries using her invisibility powers to fight Benton, but Lum bonks her on the head with a mallet, and a wild chase sequence between both groups ensues, and we see Pepper and Ginger's powers in action. The former can shed her skin like a snake, while the latter can pretend to be dead. Lum chases Pepper into a construction zone and electrocutes her while holding the chain. The chain breaks, shocking Lum. Pepper, Sugar, and Ginger hide behind pipes while Benton and Oyuki confront Lum about Benton's chain. Oyuki tells Benton that she should forget about the chain. Benton refuses, making Oyuki wonder if Benton got it from someone special to her. Benton tells Oyevgip it's not the case as Salt number 1 arrives. Sugar asks Salt to assist them with the battle, as Lum and her friends find themselves stuck in a pitfall underneath Salt's shoe. Sugar asks Salt for a strategy but realizes Salt's run out of power. Oyuki suggests carving a dimensional tunnel to grab some tea, but Benton's adamant about getting tea. Lum wants to tell Benton the truth, but she's worried that Benton will steal Ataru from her in exchange for breaking her chain. Lum and Benton argue while Sugar and her friends fill Salt with fuel. Salt powers up, throws up chains and leaves. Benton and her friends notice the multiple chains on the ground. After beating Sugar and her friends up for the problems they caused, Benton finds her chain. Benton and her friends flee to her planet to celebrate. When they reach Benton's home, she reveals that she uses her chain as a key to Lum and Oyuki's displeasure. Benton and her friends are shocked to see Sugar and her allies in Benton's home. Apparently, she left the back door open. Instead of engaging in another bout with them, Lum, Benton, and Oyuki chat about life, while Sugar and her friends taunt Benton and the others in a corner. We see Rayan, Benton, Oyuki, and Lum discussing events surrounding Planet Urchin. Oyuki brings up a figure named CaO2, and everyone starts panicking. We flash back to when Oyuki, Benton, Lum, and Ran are toddlers attending Planet Elementary School, home to the legendary robot teacher, CaO2, the Cosmo teacher. CaO2 notices the 4 girls causing problems and punishes them. Afterward, Benton and the others plan to get revenge on their teacher for making a fool out of them. They place a 500 pounds weight above the entrance and wait for it to land on CaO2's head when he enters the classroom. And the plans work flawlessly, but CaO2 doesn't feel any pain. Oyuki leads everyone in the bowing routine and the weight falls atop CaO2's desk. He punishes the girls again. In the present, Ataru and Shutaro arrive to listen to their tale about CaO2. Lum and the others continue sharing more narratives regarding them trying to destroy or cause CaO2 pain. After firing a missile at him, CaO2 chases Benton, Lum, and the others off the school grounds and toward Planet Urchin. After maneuvering through its many spikes, CaO2 gets trapped on the planet, so Benton and the others leave him there. In the present, the girls, Ataru and Shutaro, wonder if CaO2 will head to Earth for revenge, and it turns out their hunches were correct as he comes crashing into the restaurant they're chatting at to seek vengeance, and CaO2 punishing Lum, Benton, and Ran before leaving Earth. In the next scene we see Shutaro family mansion. Ryoko shows Shutaro that he made a voodoo doll of him, and Ryoko starts torturing Shutaro with it because she's drawn by what it can do, but Ryoko entrusts her men to give Shutaro's voodoo doll to Ataru. They don't share what it's for, but Ataru accepts and Shutaro fears for his life at school, while Ansemark shares a story with a premise similar to Ranma 1/2. Throughout the day, Ataru makes contact with the doll unknowingly. Shutaro suffers as a result. During class, Shutaro figures out that Ataru has his voodoo doll. He has a hunch Ataru doesn't know about its capabilities and plans to steal it from him. After protecting Ataru from harm's way many times, Shutaro asks Ataru for the straw doll, and Ataru refuses to hand it to him because it was a gift from Ryoko. One of Ryoko's men arrives and tells Ataru what the doll can do. He starts hammering away at the doll to make Shutaro feel pain. At the mansion, Shutaro starts working on a voodoo doll for Ataru to make him pay, while Shutaro and Ataru get into a voodoo battle. We see Ten selling his lollipop for a magic bottle to a salesman on a strange planet, and heads back to Ataru's place to mess with the bottle. Lum arrives and gets sucked into the bottle. Lum frees herself from the bottle using her electric powers but remains small. She reads the label on the bottle, and it says they must purchase the big bottle to return her to her size, and orders Ten to buy a new bottle for her. He leaps and Ataru enters the room and notices Lum has shrunken. Lum tells Ataru that she needs love from him to become normal. Although Ataru's annoyed with Lum's antics, he plays along with Lum's charade, and after spending a night with Lum, Ataru grows concerned for her, but he overhears Lum discussing her situation with Cherry's cat friend Kotatsu and learns she lied, which angers Ataru, so he locks Lum up in a cage since she lied to him. He leaves to pick up some girls, injuring Lum. Meanwhile, Ten asks an anthropomorphic turtle where the bottle salesman is at. We learn the salesman's a scarecrow named Gosaku and that he's smashing all the bottles at the dump. Ten plans to confront Gosaku before he smashes all his bottles. At the same time, Ataru fails to get himself a date. Ten arrives and explains the situation to Ataru. He realizes Lum might be in actual danger and heads home. He spots Lum on the rooftop since a cat freed her from her cage prison. Lum doesn't listen to Ataru, so he grabs her and gets picked up by Ten in his scooter, and they travel to Gosaku's dump where he's still smashing bottles. They reach the location and Ataru throws Lum in the jar, returning her to normal size, and Lum walking alongside Ataru, who is wearing a cage for a hat. We see Tomobiki High School holding a Queen of the School competition. The winner will receive 150,000 yen as a reward. Some participants include Lum, Shinobu, Sakura, Ran, Ryanosuke, and other students. The first competition is a test of strength and most girls succeed, and Ryanosuke's father learns Ryanosuke is competing and doesn't want her involved. When he learns she can win 150,000 yen from the competition, he allows her to compete. We reach the competition's final round, and Lum, Shinobu, Sakura, Ran, and Ryanosuke are the finalists, and Ataru tells the audience to wait until next week to discover who will be crowned the winner. Ataru announced that the finalists for the Tama 1 Queen contest will be engaging in a fierce battle soon. And remember, the finalists are Ran, Ryanosuke, Shinobu, Sakura, and Lum. Ataru reminds the audience that the winner will receive 150,000 yen as a reward. All of them are raring to go and compete in 2 challenges, and Ryanosuke and Lum claim victory in both, but Ryanosuke gets more points since she defeats Lum both time-wise. Sakura manages to pull through in the eating contest and wins. Ataru tells them to prepare for the main event, which will have them compete in a fighting event. The girls show up in wrestling-themed outfits and get ready to compete, and Ran knows she's the weakest one, so she smooches all the girls to drain them of their energy. Ataru announces they'll be teaming up to fight 5 animals, surprising Lum and Ran. Ataru signals for the match to begin, and Lum successfully defeats a tiger with her Thunderbolt Chomp attack and earns some points. She tags in Sakura, who goes one-on-one with an anaconda. Sakura gets squeezed to death by the anaconda, and the judges give her a heap of points due to her evoking sensual aura. Suddenly, the lion and gorilla interfere with the 1-versus-1 match and knock out Ataru with a chair. They gang up on Sakura, so Shinobu enters the ring to assist her. Unfortunately, the animals overwhelm Shinobu. Infuriated, Shutaro leaps into the ring, dressed up like a masked luchador, and tries helping them out, but his skills are useless against the animals' might, and they toss him out of the ring. Ryanosuke gets some pep talk from her father and tries assisting her teammates, but it doesn't work out. Ran tries fleeing the match, but the lion puts her in a submission hold, and Ran entices Ataru to help her, so he whacks the lion with a mallet. Ran uses this opportunity to give Shinobu, Ryanosuke, and Sakura their strength back. With their strength returned, our female team dishes out one more fatal blow to win the match. Ataru crowns them all the winner, confusing them. The principal explains that due to their muscles and techniques, the judges got distracted and couldn't keep track of the scores. Ataru informs the girls that they'll each receive 30,000 yen apiece, but it turns out to be 150,000 taiyaki waffles provided to them by their sponsor, Ebiya. Everyone from the series starts to show up and chaos ensues. Afterward, Ataru flaunts the cash he earned from kickbacks. Lum grabs the cash from Ataru. He trips and lands in front of Lum, and they stare at each other in a dramatic fashion, and Lum asks Ataru if she became the queen of his heart, but before Ataru could reply, Sakura and Shinobu chase after him, and the season ends with Lum joining the fun. We see Ten offers Cherry's cat friend Kotatsu special bubblegum, which allows anyone to create something of their wildest imagination. Ataru arrives and Ten tells him what the gum's capable of, so Ataru swipes all the gum and flees. Ten tells Lum what Ataru did, and she's not surprised. At school, Ataru uses Ten's gum to create copies of Benten and Oyukai, and he tries enticing them to come to him, but they refuse. Before he forces himself upon the two, Lum arrives and hits him with a mallet. After realizing his mistake, Ataru uses another piece of gum to conjure a clone of himself, and uses his clone to keep Lum hostage, and escapes. Lum frees herself from the clone's grasp and chases Ataru through the school. Ataru conjures up numerous clones to prevent Lum from punishing him, and he ends up bumping into Shutaro, injuring him. Ataru and Shutaro engage in a brief duel. Ataru whips up a giant cherry head, which lands atop Shutaro and other classmates. Ataru leaves but bumps into Lum. They argue for a bit, but suddenly Ten arrives and uses his fire breath powers on Ataru, and Lum scolds Ten for acting too harshly. But she apologizes to Ten when it's revealed the Ataru before her was another bubble clone. Ten notices Ataru drop several gum sticks on the ground, so Lum uses the gum to create clones of Ryanosuke, Shinobu, and Sakura. She orders the clones to look attractive and hopes this will help her catch Ataru. Sakura exits her office and notices something's caught several students' attention. She gets angry when she learns a clone of herself is putting on a frivolous show for them. Shinobu and Ryanosuke are peeved about their clones' actions too, and the 3 women notice their clones are bonded by a string and follow the trail. They hope to bring the culprit behind this act to justice, and to avoid getting caught, Lum flees to the rooftop, where Ataru happens to be residing. Hataru contemplates his failures and realizes he only has one piece of gum left, and he uses the gum to conjure up clones of our female cast in swimsuits. Lum, Ryunosuke, Shinobu, and Sakura discover Ataru's whereabouts and entrap him in gum, and Lum destroys Ataru's harem before his eyes. At Ataru's home, he and Ten get into a heated battle during dinner. During the fight, Ataru throws a rice cooker at Ten, but it ends up hitting Lum instead, so Ataru's mother orders Ataru to apologize to Lum. Ataru apologizes, but she starts acting strange. At school, Anson Mark asks Lum to read a passage, but she reads the passage in her alien language, setting Ataru off. Shutaro and the others grow concerned, so Ataru tells them he accidentally threw a rice cooker at her. Shutaro and the others punish Ataru. Ten arrives and chats with Lum in her native language. He then turns to Ataru and tells him Lum no longer knows how to speak Earthling. Ataru summons Sakura to the classroom. Shutaro informs her about what's going on with Lum, and Sakura observes Lum and tells the others she's suffering from temporary memory loss. As Ataru and Lum walk home together, Ataru flirts with several girls, which angers Lum. Since Ataru doesn't understand what Lum is saying, he ignores her and Lum leaves. Ataru arrives home and notices Ten and Kotatsu hanging out. Meanwhile, Lum scavengers her ship for something and ganders at a book. At home, Ten tells Ataru that Lum may not return, so Ataru kicks Ten and throws Kotatsu out of his room. The next day, Shutaro approaches Ataru and asks him what he plans to do if Lum doesn't recover. Ataru's certain she'll recover soon and isn't worried about it. While walking home, Ataru spots Lum and calls out to her, but she ignores him, making Ataru worry a bit. Based on a conversation between Ten and Sakura, we learn it's been a week since Lum's injury and she still hasn't recovered yet. Ataru arrives home and notices Lum's in his room. He sits on the opposite side and realizes Lum hasn't recovered from her injury yet. With tears in his eyes, Ataru apologizes to Lum and hopes she'll be able to understand his language again. Filled with joy, Lum makes Ataru wear an electronic translator mask. With the mask, he can now understand what Lum is saying, and as the two walk to school together, Ataru yells at Lum for making him wear this ugly device. Ryunosuke leaves a bathhouse and discovers Ten hanging from a tree. He drops Ten off at Ataru's home, and Lum thanks Ryunosuke for her actions by letting Ryunosuke eat dinner with her, Ataru, and Ataru's parents. Ryunosuke compliments Ataru's mother's cooking, filling Ataru's mother with glee. After eating, Ryunosuke returns home and asks her father for intel regarding her mother. Ryunosuke's father refuses at first, but Ryunosuke's violent outburst convinces him to spill the beans. Instead of relaying a tale about Ryunosuke's mother, he shares a story about his first crush, which infuriates Ryunosuke, and her father shares another false narrative with her and suggests she think of him as her mother, which angers her further. Ryunosuke violently hurls her father into a wall and leaves home disappointed. Ryunosuke bumps into Ataru, Lum, and Ataru's mother and rushes over to Ataru's mother's arms to let out steam. She, Ataru, and Lum visit a park and Ryunosuke informs them that she's upset she doesn't know much about her mother, but before she recalls a memory she had with her mother, Ryunosuke's father arrives. Ryunosuke's father says he misses his wife and that wallowing in sadness won't bring her back. Ryunosuke apologizes and Lum and Ataru are shocked that they resolved their issues swiftly. A few days later, Ryunosuke watches a news report and learns that her father lied about his wife passing away, and we learn that his wife dumped Ryunosuke's father. Ryunosuke wakes up from a nightmare and glances at her father. She's still upset that he lied to her about her mother and wants to punish him for it, and Ryunosuke stops herself when her father starts weeping over Masako leaving him. Her father wakes up and thinks of Ryunosuke's Masako, which causes a funny chase sequence to ensue. Ryunosuke throws a case at her father, helping him properly wake up, and the two discuss matters for the remainder of the night. At school, Ryunosuke tells Shutaro and the others about what happened between her and her father. Ataru tells Ryunosuke she may resemble her mother. Lum says Ryunosuke's father may have a family album stashed away somewhere. This entices them to visit Ryunosuke's father's shop at the school to look for it. Ryunosuke notices her father's looking through the album and swipes it from him. Ryunosuke looks inside and realizes this album only contains photos of her father during his youth, and she confronts her dad about it and he shows her an album that contains photos of him and Masako. He warns Ryunosuke that she'll regret looking at the photos. Ryunosuke thinks otherwise and ganders at the photos inside. While all seems well, Ryunosuke notices her father's been with multiple women and asks him which one is her mother. Her father confesses that his wife was never around, so he had female customers play with Ryunosuke to give her that mother-daughter experience. These constant antics resulted in Ryunosuke's father forgetting Ryunosuke's mother's identity, and Ryunosuke decides to abandon her father and stay with Ataru and his folks for the time being. Ryunosuke's father appears on a new show again and begs Ryunosuke to come home. In the next scene, we see a new character watching a soap opera in his home. We then cut to Lum, who is waiting for Ataru to arrive for their date today. Ataru hits on several girls but remembers he has a date with Lum, and he notices a blonde-haired girl nearby and asks her on a date, and she accepts Ataru's offer, which shocks him. The two visit a cafe and the girl's taking a long time ordering something, and Ataru notices Kosuke nearby and has him substitute for him so he can see Lum. At the park, Lum contemplates what Ataru's doing. The male from earlier arrives and greets Lum, and she finds his affection toward her creepy and tries electrocuting him. Lum's powers prove ineffective, resulting in her destroying her outfit. The boy latches onto Lum and Ataru arrives and notices everything. Ataru tries to depart but Lum stops and electrocutes him. She's curious why her powers worked on Ataru but not on the unnamed male. The boy starts rubbing on Lum, which angers Ataru. Lum notices Ataru's reaction and smiles. However, Ataru takes it back, upsetting Lum. To make Ataru jealous, Lum plans to spend quality time with this boy, but before Lum and the boy depart, Ataru unloads his frustrations with this scenario onto them, which shocks them. At the boy's home, he introduces Lum to his grandfather, who he feels is the actor on TV. Then he makes and gives Lum vegetable juice and introduces her to his animal companions. Later, Lum tries leaving but the boy refuses to let Lum leave, and Lum stays because she wants Ataru to worry about her. At home, Ataru ponders his situation with Lum and the boy. At school, Ataru knows Lum's using the boy to draw attention to herself. Ten arrives and asks Ataru about Lum's whereabouts. Lum arrives and tells Ten that she's being held hostage by the boy, and she says she won't leave the boy's sight unless Ataru stops by and makes things right. Lum opens the school's locker, opening a gateway from the boy's jungle home to the school. The boy enters this portal and confronts Lum, telling her that she cannot leave without his permission. Shutaro confronts the boy, and the boy tells Shutaro that he can get touchy with Lum because he's his wife, and Shutaro confronts Ataru about what's happening and Ataru has no clue. Chaos ensues, allowing the boy to flee with Lum. Shutaro and his male classmates try to stop the boy but realize his home is protected by electricity. Ataru confronts Shutaro about the situation and Shutaro remembers his family has shockproof suits. Shutaro introduces Shinobu, Ataru, and Kosuke to Mr. Saizo, his estate's gardener, and informs them about his duties and issues involving his lost son. Shinobu notices a picture of Saizo's son when he was younger. Then the TV in Saizo's workplace shows our crew what's currently happening between Lum and the boy, and the footage depicts Lum in trouble and this hurts Ataru. At the boy's home, it's revealed Lum set this scenario up. After we see the two scuffle for a bit, we cut to Ataru and his friends. With the shockproof suits on, the four travel through the electric jungle, hoping to discover where the boy's hiding Lum. The boy and Lum observe Ataru and the others on television. The boy leaves home to stop Ataru and the others. The boy uses traps to entice Ataru and his friends to flee. Ataru and his friends endure the traps and Ataru calls the boy out for his cowardly antics. We continue observing the battle between the boy, Ataru, and Ataru's comrades, and Lum loves what she sees, but when she notices Ataru might be in trouble, she tries lending a hand. Unfortunately, this backfires on Lum since she winds up knocking Ataru out with her electric powers. The boy takes Lum away and she desperately calls out to Ataru. At the boy's home, Lum throws things at the boy and says she'd rather die than marry him. This hurts the boy's soul and Lum tries apologizing to him. The boy doesn't accept Lum's apology and ties her up. Ataru and his friends find an abandoned building and seek refuge in it. They ponder what the boy plans to do with Lum. Shinobu finds a photo of Saizo and Shingo. After Shutaro shares more insight about Saizo's experiment debacle, Shinobu questions if the boy who took Lum is Shingo. Then our heroes notice an animal stampede nearby, and they learn they're heading for the boy and Lum's wedding ceremony. Our squad bumps into the boy and Lum and saves her from his grasp. The boy's television breaks in the process, causing him to cry because he feels his grandfather perished, and Shinobu reassures him that the TV actor isn't his grandfather. Shutaro and the others take the boy to Saizo, and we learn the boy is Shingo, but the boy notices the same actor on Saizo's TV and rushes to it instead of Saizo, and Saizo rushes into Shutaro's arms because he still thinks he's Shingo, and Lum thanks Ataru for worrying about her. Kurama complains to her birds that she needs a husband, and one of her birds tells her that they've been using a computer from planet Kurama to help her find one. The birds use the machine and inform Kurama they found her a husband. Kurama looks at the boy and orders her birds to bring him to her immediately. Elsewhere, Ran and Ri spend time together. Suddenly, Kurama's ship arrives and forces Ran and Ri on board. Kurama greets Ri and says she wants to have him, which angers Ran, and she tells Kurama she's not going to let that happen, but Kurama ejects her from her ship because she's ruining her moment with Ri. Ran falls on top of Lum and the two discuss what happened between Ran, Ri, and Kurama. When Lum learns Kurama's involved, she refuses to help Ran and tells Lum that if things go south, she plans to have her and Ri commit suicide. Additionally, she plans to haunt Lum's nightmares, injecting her with awful childhood memories. Fortunately for Ran, this persuades Lum to help her. Meanwhile, Kurama tells her birds to make more food for her and Ri. One of them leaves to grab some groceries and winds up picking up Ataru too. The bird tells Ataru that Kurama plans to have hubby, upsetting Ataru. On Kurama's ship, Kurama orders her birds to make more food, but they tell her they're waiting for the ingredients. Ran and Lum arrive, and when Ri sees Lum, he swiftly transforms into his pig-ox form, making the birds panic for a bit. Fortunately, Kurama doesn't notice Ri transform, but the birds plan to prevent Ri from doing it again. Ri starts getting touchy with Lum and Ran gets upset over it. Kurama is curious about Lum's relationship, so Ataru arrives and tells her Ri and Lum used to date in the past. Ataru suggests that he should take Ri's place as her husband, but Kurama doesn't like that idea. Before Ran leaves with Ri, Kurama entices Ri to come to her side. Ran gets upset and Ataru attempts to shower her with love. While Lum and Ran squabble, Kurama sends the three somewhere else via her ship's trapdoor. Ri transforms again because he's worried about Lum. The birds shield Kurama's eyes to prevent her from seeing Ri's beast form. Ri reverts to his regular form and her birds insist she and Ri head to the bedroom to Ri and Kurama enter Kurama's bedroom and find Ataru, Ran, and Lum inside. Kurama's puzzled and one of her birds remembers that the trapdoor would send people here. Lum, the birds, Kurama, and Ri get into a brief and amusing quarrel. Ataru realizes Ran's not in the area and Ran reveals she used the time to head to the main floor to gather the food. Ran accidentally falls, but Ri catches her. They share a tiny moment, but Ri notices the food, so he transforms and gobbles it. Kurama notices Ri's beast form and is no longer interested in pursuing him. We see Shutoru's father says he's scheduled someone to marry Shutoro. Shutoro argues he's too young for marriage, but his father insists he goes through with this arrangement, but before Shutoro accepts his father's offer, Ataru arrives and tells him he'll accept it in Shutoro's stead. Shutoro and Ataru bicker briefly, and then one of the Shutoro family servants arrives to deliver a message to Shutoro. He tells Shutoro that his sister Ryoko is upset about the arranged marriage. Shutoro says he's not willing to back out since he doesn't want to bring shame to his family's name. However, he's taken aback by this marriage when his father tells him he'll be marrying Tobimoro's little sister. A servant tells Ryoko about this development and she's shaken by this news too. Shutoro shares his concerns about this arranged marriage with his father. However, his father doesn't think it's a terrible idea. Ataru intervenes in the conversation again, resulting in another clash between him and Shutoro. Ryoko arrives and offers to marry Tobimoro, and her father thinks it's a brilliant resolution, unlike Ataru and Shutoro. Shutoro tells Ryoko he won't allow that to happen, and says he'll accept the marriage offer. Shutoro travels to the Mizunokoji family estate to speak with Tobimoro. Tobimoro reveals he doesn't have a sister. He and Shutoro argue about it briefly. Ataru shoves them into a nearby river and tells them to pike down. They spot several women carrying one of Shutoro's spies and eavesdrop on their conversation about Tobimoro's younger sister. Tobimoro can't believe his family would hide his sister's identity from them and yells. This catches one of the female guards' attention, but thankfully Shutoro, Ataru, and Tobimoro avoid detection. Tobimoro's sister arrives and chats with these women. Tobimoro's sister and her guards head to the estate's track field. While Tobimoro and Shutoro bicker over his sister, Ataru leaves to spy on Tobimoro's sister and the guards, and he tries getting touchy with Tobimoro's sister, but she hurls him back to the river where Shutoro and Tobimoro are arguing, and the guards comforts Tobimoro's sister about what happened. We see Shutoro fantasizing about Lum, Sakura, Shinobu, and the other girls flocking toward him. Then a large version of Tobimoro's sister arrives, and this wakes Shutoro up. Shutoro slightly terrified about marrying Tobimoro's sister, but to maintain his family's good name, Shutoro doesn't plan to back down from this marriage proposal. Later, several of Shutoro's family servants help Shutoro prepare for his casual meeting with Tobimoro's sister, but someone tells Shutoro that they're preparing him for an engagement ceremony, resulting in Shutoro trying to back out of the ordeal, but before they grab Shutoro, Lum arrives with Shinobu and Ataru at her side. Lum electrocutes Shutero's servants. Shinobu tells Shutaro Ataru to inform them about the situation and entices him to jump inside her carrying basket so she can hide him. Shinobu flees with Shutaro and Ataru disguises himself as Shutaro. He and Lum confront Shutaro's father, but Shutaro's father realizes what he's up to and ties Ataru up. Additionally, one of Shutaro's father's men informs Shutaro's father that they've retrieved Shutaro from Shinobu. Shutaro's father throws Shinobu, Ataru, and Lum out of their estate. Ataru tells Lum and the others he plans to crash the ceremony. Elsewhere, Tobimura's sister's female guards try to prep his sister for her first meeting with Shutaro. They lecture her about men briefly and try to remove her armor. Tobimura's sister refuses and starts panicking. Her guards realize she's still shaken up because of Ataru's actions. One of them confronts Tobimura's sister and tells her that she'll get to see her brother soon. They briefly explain what a brother is to Tobimura's sister. Then we cut to Shutaro and his family arriving at Tobimura's family's estate. Everyone heads inside and Shutaro's father asks Tobimura's father where Tobimura's sister's at. Before Tobimura's sister Asuka shows herself, Shutaro is hopeful her armor appearance will make his father reconsider the marriage ceremony. Despite being trapped in a cage while wearing armor, Shutaro's father is not willing to have Shutaro back out of the ceremony. To make matters worse, Ataru arrives in a female disguise, causing Asuka to break out of the cage and flee. A wild chase and battle sequence ensues at the estate, resulting in guns being fired. After Ataru grabs a hold of Asuka, Lum shocks both of them, and this immobilizes Ataru and shatters Asuka's armor. Asuka grabs a tree and uses it to catapult herself away from the estate. She ends up landing on Tobimura nearby, resulting in a funny skirmish between the two, in a flashback involving Tobimura and his family. This scene is set moments after Tobimura's mother gives birth to Asuka. Tobimura and his father want to see Asuka, but Tobimura's mother says she cannot interact with any men until she's 15. In the present, we see Shutaro's family, Tobimura's family, and Shinobu, Lum, and Ataru discussing Tobimura's family's ridiculous customs at the dinner table. Shinobu and Lum inform Shutaro that Asuka is a human girl, surprising Shutaro since he thought she was an armor humanoid figure. Meanwhile, Asuka notices Tobimura has eyes like hers. Tobimura wonders if she's his sister while Asuka believes Tobimura's a girl like her, and Tobimura tells Asuka he's a man, resulting in her grabbing and throwing him somewhere. Asuka visits her estate's riverbed and recalls her brother discussion with her guards, and she realizes that Tobimura could be her brother. Shutaro, Ataru, and the others arrive, startling Asuka. A hilarious chase sequence between Shutaro, Asuka, and Ataru ensues. Meanwhile, we see Tobimura contemplating Asuka while sitting in a tree. Asuka and the boys head Tobimura's way, but before the situation turns violent, Asuka's guards fire an elephant tranquilizer dart at her, silencing Asuka. Asuka awakens in the dining area and notices everyone's present from Ataru to Tobimura. Simultaneously, Asuka realizes she, Shutaro, and Ataru are chained up. Her mother confronts her about her fear of men and tells her to toughen through it. Asuka's mother tells Tobimura that they'll be leaving Asuka in his care. After leaving, Tobimura attempts to harm Shutaro because he doesn't want him to terrorize Asuka. Lum tells Tobimura to cut it out. The girls try to ease Asuka's worries about men, but this plan fails. Tobimura stands up for Asuka, causing her to blush. Shutaro's family's guards inform Ryoko about Shutaro's developments. Ryoko plans to crash the ceremony. At the same time, Shutaro and Ataru use their combined strength to break the wall that's bounding them. They attempt to confront Asuka, but Asuka panics and breaks the wall she's bound to. Asuka and her bound wall land on top of Tobimura. She breaks free, helps Tobimura out, and hides behind him. Ataru realizes Asuka's developed a special type of connection with Tobimura. He and Shutaro unload their grievances with this phenomenon with Tobimura. Asuka's stomach growls, so everyone takes a break from the topic for a while. After eating, Asuka rushes to Tobimura's side again. Ataru and Shutaro bring up marriage and Asuka questions what that entails. Afterward, Ryoko has her men place bombs everywhere, resulting in them exploding and damaging Tobimura's family's dining area. During this excursion, Ryoko checks on Shutaro while Lum and Shinobu inform Asuka about marriage. After another violence ensues, Shutaro's father and Tobimura's father decide to cancel Asuka and Shutaro's engagement plans. Kotatsu visits a shop, and the shop's owner notices something's caught Kotatsu's eye, so he offers to sell that item to Kotatsu for a good price. Kotatsu shows the owner a knife, and the owner interprets this gesture as Kotatsu wanting to cut a deal with him. At Ataru's home, Ataru and Lum bicker over a game they're playing. The two stop arguing and continue playing the game. Kotatsu is having problems with the magic table he got from the shop owner, and Kotatsu's fiasco ruins Lum and Ataru's game, resulting in the two arguing with each other again. Ataru tells Lum that they should focus their anger on the magic table. This leads to a scuffle between Lum, the others, and the magic table. Meanwhile, Ataru's mother tries to prepare tempura for dinner, and she yells at Ataru from the kitchen, telling him to stop moving around because she doesn't want dust particles entering her food. Sherry arrives and tells Ataru's mother that he'll protect her tempura from danger. Sherry says he sensed an ominous presence coming from Ataru's room, and Ataru's mother tells Cherry to check it out. Sherry examines the table briefly, and Kotatsu decides to hold the table down. Ataru places a blanket on the table while Lum plugs its cord into an outlet. The table causes a blizzard to occur in Ataru's room and manages to get Kotatsu off of it, and Ten tells Kotatsu it might be best for him to ditch the table, but Kotatsu refuses because he doesn't want to hurt his pride. Lum analyzes the table and her and the others realize it has Shutoro's family's emblem on it, and Ataru summons Shutaro to his room amusingly, resulting in a scuffle between the two. Lum uses Cherry's horrid appearance to calm Shutaro down. Shutaro analyzes the table and confirms it's one of his family's precious treasures, and he says it's made from a rare South Pole tree species that despise heat. Shutaro encourages Kotatsu to show this table the joys of warmth and leaves. Later, Ataru and his family have dinner together. Before Ataru digs in, Kotatsu and his table enter the room and ruin his and his family's meal with their cat and mouse-like chase sequence. We receive a montage of this fiasco occurring over many days. One night, Kotatsu and his table appear on a random house's roof. Kotatsu drops the blanket and he and his table settle things. The next day, we see Kotatsu and Lum traversing Tomobiki town with the magic table, and Kotatsu turns his magic table into a magic sled. Ataru and Lum visit a pet shop and observe a cow. The owner tells Ataru to be careful around the cow, but Ataru ignores him. The cow starts nibbling on Ataru's hand, so Lum tries forcing Ataru's hand from the animal's mouth. The cow starts biting Lum, resulting in Lum electrocuting the cow with her powers. Lum and Ataru leave the shop. Lum heads to her spaceship and Ten notices the wound she received from the cow. Lum ensures Ten that she'll be okay. She and Ten watch several TV shows and fall asleep. While asleep, Lum has a nightmare that depicts her transforming into a horrid beast because of the cow's actions. Lum wakes up and heads to her ship's restroom to brush her teeth and notices her Oni horns look similar to cow horns. Ten notices Lum's changes and freaks out. Lum tells Ten not to tell everyone about her appearance. 3 days pass, and we cut to Ataru and his friends discussing Lum's absence. Ataru spots Ten and Ten's infuriated that Ataru's not going through the same cow-transforming fiasco as Lum. Lum arrives and everyone notices she has a new hairstyle. She tells Ataru she wants to discuss things with him privately, so she grabs Ataru and the two depart from the school window. Ataru plummets to the ground, so Lum takes him to Sakura's office so he can receive a quick health checkup. Sakura notices something is bothering Lum and Lum reveals she got bit by a cow. While Ataru says Lum shouldn't worry about it, Sakura says Lum could have strange symptoms since she's an alien and not a human. Ataru and Lum depart from Sakura's office. Ataru asks Lum to tell him what's on her mind. Lum asks Ataru several questions concerning cows. Afterward, Lum says if she ever goes missing and a cow arrives at his doorstep, she wants Ataru to name the creature after her and treat it with kindness. Lum tries to leave, but Ataru attempts to tussle with her. This results in him learning about Lum's horns. Lum cries and shares her concerns about becoming a cow to Ataru. Ataru says if that occurs, he promises to take care of Lum. The two hug it out and we cut to Ten conversing with Lum's father about her horns, and Lum's father tells Ten that Lum will be okay and her horns will eventually return to normal size. Ten returns to Ataru's home to inform Lum about what her father told him. At the same time, we see Ataru building a barn for Lum because he's unaware that she'll be okay. Although Lum feels bad for Ataru, the segment closes with her smiling because she's happy Ataru deeply cares about her. We see Ataru and Ten wandering Tomobiki town together. Suddenly a salesman calls out to them and tries to persuade Ataru to purchase one of his earmuffs. Ataru finds the item's price baffling and attempts to leave. The salesman offers Ataru a deal on 2 earmuffs, which entices Ataru to purchase them. Ataru and Ten visit a park. Ten and Ataru try out the earmuffs. This results in the two switching bodies. Ataru tries fleeing from Ten because he wants to use his new body to cuddle with girls. Before he flees, Lum arrives and startles Ataru. Knowing he's in Ten's body now, Ataru tells Lum to check on Ten nearby. Ataru leaves, spots a group of girls, and cuddles them. Meanwhile, Lum's checking on Ten. He awakens and asks Lum where Ataru went, and Lum thinks Ten is crazy, so she comforts Ten. Ten tries explaining what happened between him and Ataru, but Lum's not buying it. Ten spots Ataru with a group of girls and tries confronting him. Ataru tells Lum that Ten is trying to pick on him, resulting in Lum grabbing Ten. Ataru flees and spots Sakura nearby. He tries cuddling with Sakura, but her Ataru senses kick in, resulting in her slapping Ataru to the ground. Lum confronts Sakura about it and she's unsure why she sensed malicious intent. Ataru says he's going to die soon. He says before he dies, he'd like to do something crude to Sakura, resulting in Ten smacking him on the head. Lum shocks Ten while Ataru hugs Sakura. Ten tries explaining what happened to him and Ataru to Sakura. However, Sakura and Lum find Ten's remarks strange. Ataru says he learned all his nasty remarks from Ten. This results in Lum and Sakura beating Ten senseless. Then Ataru tries doing something nefarious to Sakura, resulting in more madness ensuing. Cherry arrives, but Sakura tells him she's in the middle of something. He pulls out a bag containing the earmuffs Ataru bought from the salesman. Cherry puts on the earmuffs, resulting in him, Ataru, and Ten swapping bodies. Cherry ends up in Ten's body while Ten ends up in his. Ataru realizes he's in his original body again and gets electrocuted by Lum because of Ten's earlier actions. Cherry yells at Sakura while Lum continues electrocuting Ataru. Next we see Ataru's mother waking Ataru up because he's late for school. Ataru leaves home but forgets his suitcase. Lum notices Ataru's late and tags along with him. Lum tells Ataru she knows of a way they can get to school faster. She and Ataru visit the park and head near some empty structures. Lum places a device on the structure and it can connect to 2 different spaces. Ataru doesn't trust Lum when her device short-circuits. He tries fleeing the area, which angers Lum. Lum grabs Ataru and shows him the portal her device made. Lum pushes Ataru into the portal and chases after him. The two end up at the school grounds. Lum tells Ataru to go ahead because she needs to close the portal up. Then we cut to Shinobu and her classmates. They briefly discuss Ataru and Lum and question why they haven't arrived at class yet. Meanwhile, Ataru rushes to class and spots numerous adults in the classroom. Ataru learns the adults in the classroom happen to be his classmates, making him realize that Lum's portal sent him 10 years into the future. Lum realizes her device sent Ataru and herself into the future. Before Ataru looks for Lum, he rests and eats his lunch. Then a small child arrives, startles Ataru, and starts eating his food. Ataru stops him but lets the kid eat his meal when the kid starts crying. Lum arrives and comforts the child to Ataru's dismay. Suddenly, Lum loses interest in the child when Ataru pinpoints how the kid has the same raunchy mannerisms as he does. Suddenly, Ataru's future wife enters the classroom and asks the other women where her son is. They give his future wife some intel, resulting in her leaving the classroom to look for her son. While she's searching for her son, we learn that Ataru's son is named Kokoro. Elsewhere, Ataru, Lum, and Kokoro visit an ice cream parlor to get Kokoro food. Ataru and Lum bicker briefly. Then Lum asks Kokoro to introduce himself to them. Lum and Ataru are speechless when they discover Kokoro is Ataru's future son. Lum examines Kokoro and realizes he doesn't have horns. This indicates to her that Kokoro isn't her son, meaning she and Ataru aren't a couple in the future. Lum and Kokoro cry while Ataru questions who his wife is. Ataru and Kokoro head to the school and Ataru drops Kokoro off. He observes Kokoro and hopes to discover who his future wife is. When Kokoro rushes to his mother, Ataru is left speechless about who he'll marry in the future. Lum arrives and Ataru follows her to the new portal. After Ataru departs, we learn future Shinobu is Kokoro's real mother. Ataru and Lum return home and Ataru's mother scolds him for peeing his pants. Ataru and Lum question their future together. Then we cut to an anthropomorphic rabbit traversing through a mystical realm surrounded by floating doors and Rabbit saying he's running late. Shinobu visits Sakura in Sakura's office. Shinobu feels she's been cursed since she only attracts creepy fellows. Sakura checks to see if Shinobu's been cursed but realizes she is just destined to attract strange guys. Moreover, Sakura reassures Shinobu that she'll find her true love one day. Shinobu wanders to Tomobiki town and ponders Sakura's remarks. Then she comes across a fellow in a rabbit costume and helps him. Although Shinobu is smitten by the boy at first, she finally takes note of his rabbit attire and attempts to flee from him. When the boy gets clingy with Shinobu, Shinobu grabs him and throws him into the sky. Before he collides with Lum, the boy travels through some type of portal. Shinobu reflects on her encounter with him and notices he left a weird key behind. Lum notices Shinobu nearby and Shinobu informs her about the boy. Then Lum tells Shinobu the boy flew inside some type of hyperspace hole. The boy Inaba regroups with his fellow rabbit costume-wearing friends. They ask him if he still has his key. Inaba checks his costume and learns he lost it. In Tomobiki Town, Lum and Shinobu wonder what the key's for. Inaba's friends panic about the Key of Fortune briefly. Meanwhile, Lum builds a door for Shinobu to use. Shinobu inserts the Key of Fortune inside the door's keyhole. Shinobu opens the door and Itaru and Lum fall into the same void filled with doors. Shinobu, Lum, and Ataru enter a random door in this void and find themselves in Tomobiki Town again. Ataru chases after a girl and Lum chases after Ataru, leaving Shinobu behind. Shinobu wanders Tomobiki Town and spots future Shinobu and Kokoro interacting with a mother and her child. Shinobu hides behind a light post and stares at her future self. Meanwhile, we cut to Inaba and his friends cleaning up the doors in the void. They spot Inaba's Key of Fortune inside one of the doors they deem to be the Room of Fortune. Inaba's friends scold Inaba again. Back in future Tomobiki Town, Shinobu observes her future self some more. She's worried that she'll end up marrying Ataru. While she's pondering, Inaba startles and presents Shinobu with his business card. Ataru and Lum bump into Tsubame and two kids. The two follow into Sakura's home and realize they're in the future again. Ataru and Lum spy on the two. Suddenly, Shinobu and Inaba join them, but before future Sakura and Tsubame share an moment, future Sakura notices the four staring at them and hurls them away. Then we cut to future Shutaro and his subordinate arriving somewhere in future Tomobiki Town. Future Shutaro plans to fire future Ataru. Suddenly, our Ataru falls on future Shutaro, resulting in the two clashing briefly. Then future Shutaro spots future Ataru and tries to confront him. However, Ataru stops future Shutaro when he learns future Ataru works for him. Lum goes ahead and spots future Ataru and future Lum chatting. From their exchange, she learns future Ataru and Lum aren't married to each other. Instead, future Lum is smitten with future Rate, which upsets Lum further. While she continues to observe her future self, future Ran arrives and chats with future Lum briefly about her failed romantic endeavors. Inaba tells the three not to feel so down about the future because he feels it's possible they can change it. Before Inaba delves into that topic further, Inaba's friends arrive and capture Lum, Shinobu, Inaba, and Ataru. They all return to Inaba's home world. Lum, Shinobu, and Ataru are in a cage while Inaba is dangling from a rope. Inaba's friends are having tea and discussing how they should punish Inaba, Lum, and the others. Inaba's friends free Lum and the others and pretend to be buddy-buddy with them. Before three of Inaba's friends bash Lum, Shinobu, and Ataru with mallets, our protagonists stop them. Then Inaba's friends turn their attention to Inaba and start attacking him like a pinata. Ataru and the others grab Inaba and flee the area. They end up in Inaba's world's locker room. Inaba hands Lum and the others some rabbit disguises so they can travel freely through hyperspace. While traveling through hyperspace, Inaba says he'd like to assist them in making a door that holds a favorable future for them all. Inaba confirms that each door holds a different future too. This entices Lum and Ataru go door hunting. They arrive in another future Tomobiki Town and notice Ran and Ri are together in this one. Lum and Ataru spot future Shutaro and are baffled that future Ataru still works for him. Additionally, future Lum is Shutaro's spouse. Shinobu and Inaba regroup with the two. Realizing this future Tomobiki Town is a dud, our protagonists flee to more future Tomobiki Towns to find the future of their dreams. Unfortunately, they encounter more duds, so they head into hyperspace again. Lum and Ataru are determined to find a favorable future for themselves. Meanwhile, Shinobu contemplates what a bright future for herself would look like, and a hyperspace door shutting behind the four. The story continues as Ataru, Lum, Shinobu, and Inaba exploring hyperspace. Lum and Ataru hop inside a magical door because they're eager to find a future that'll satisfy them. Then we cut to a post-apocalyptic future. In this future, Lum's running away from Ataru, who seems to be a ruler in this realm. After Ataru tells his goons to swipe Lum's goods, the Shutaro in this universe slays him. Meanwhile, the real Ataru and his friends watch the events unfold before their eyes and depart from this world via a magic door. The four take a break from exploring futures. Lum and Ataru bicker over not finding their ideal futures. Inaba takes Shinobu, Ataru, and Lum to the Factory of Fate. He shows them a device that'll craft them a special doorknob. When they attach this doorknob to specific hyperspace doors, it'll allow them to explore the future of their desires. Once they finish, Inaba's friends arrive and try to stop them. Inaba helps Shinobu, Lum, and Ataru escape, to Inaba's friends' dismay. Before Inaba tests his doorknob out, one of his friends opens the door and hurts him, and this causes Inaba to plummet toward this hyperspace abyss. His friends show little care for him, Aincher and Shinobu. Shinobu departs to save Inaba. Meanwhile, Lum charges up and threatens to electrocute Inaba's friends if they don't back off. Inaba's friends leave them be, allowing Lum to try one of her doorknobs. However, one of Inaba's friends pulls one over on Lum, causing her to drop her doorknob. Lum's doorknob disintegrates, upsetting her. Meanwhile, Ataru hides from Lum and places his doorknob on one of the magic doors. Ataru enters the door and arrives at his ideal future. Ataru notices several women crowded toward him. However, he notices Lum isn't present, making him mildly curious. Ataru follows this future version of himself. Future Ataru reveals future Lum isn't around because future Ataru wanted a harem. Future Ataru states several vile things he did to future Lum, causing Ataru to hit him with a mallet. Ataru leaves this future realm, returns to hyperspace, and reflects on it. Lum chases after Ataru while he continues to brood on his ideal future. Meanwhile, Shinobu saves Inaba and spots his friends nearby. This entices Shinobu to place her doorknob on a door. She enters the door's realm with Inaba. Meanwhile, Inaba's friends spot Lum and Ataru causing a ruckus in hyperspace and plan to stop them. Inaba awakens and sits next to Shinobu. The two gaze upon the future iterations of Ataru, Shinobu, Sakura, and others. Inaba asks Shinobu if this is the future she wants. Shinobu's unsure. However, she tells Inaba that she wants a future where everyone can remain the same. Back in hyperspace, Lum asks Ataru why he refuses to marry her. Ataru argues it's because he doesn't adore Lum's attitude. Before the two discuss things further, Inaba's friends confront them. One of them presents a large door in front of the pair and uses a key to open the door. This companion claims this door holds the pair's true future. This causes the other doors to plummet toward the hyperspace depths. Inaba's friends state new doors containing new futures will be arriving soon. One of the doors hits Ataru and Ataru enters it. Ataru arrives in a future where he and Lum become a married couple. Lum peeks in the door too. Realizing how happy Lum is in this ideal future, Ataru leaves and tries to safeguard it. He and the door plummet on a door pile. Lum's happy Ataru tried to save this future. Meanwhile, Shinobu notices one of the doors still has her ideal future doorknob on it. Inaba removes Shinobu's doorknob from the door. Inaba's friends spot the four and chase them toward another magic door. Inaba states this door will send Lum, Shinobu, and Ataru back home. Inaba tells Shinobu he'll be staying behind, causing Shinobu to cry. Although they may never see each other again, Inaba hopes he and Shinobu can have tea together down the pipeline. The next day, Inaba joins the three for tea at a cafe. Inaba reveals he's in charge of crafting new future realms by himself. Although Shinobu's a bit irritated but happy that she'll get to interact with Inaba more. We see Anson Mark, who is still beaten up over his experience with Shuteru's family. However, he's certain Shinobu's family won't bring him much trouble as he knows she's a great student. Anson arrives at Shinobu's home's entrance and asks her to let him inside. However, Shinobu is taken aback by Anson's strange attitude. Anson tells Shinobu he's been through a lot and would love for her to let him inside. Shinobu tells Anson that her parents aren't home. Anson starts getting fussy with Shinobu, causing her to slam the door in his face, causing Anson to soar through the sky. The showrunners inform the audience that Anson will be visiting Ataru's home. One of the Shutero family agents performing roll call duty for Shutero's family's octopi. This agent learns Akamaru, one of the octopi, is missing. He heads to Shutero's room and informs him about Akamaru's absence. Shutero tells this agent to organize a search and rescue team swiftly. While sleeping, Shutaro has a strange encounter with an octopi ghost. 1 week later, Ataru, Shinobu, Lum, and Ten visit Shutero's family's estate. They want to check on Shutero because he hasn't attended class since then. The four enter Shutero's dark room and eavesdrop on him monologuing. The four confront Shutero and ask him what's bothering him. Shutero opens his curtains and reveals that an octopus is resting on his head. Shutero explains what happened after his run-in with an octopus ghost. During this flashback, Shutero explains why he's not planning to attend school. Ryoko notices something strange on top of Shutero's head and paints it. Ryoko and her family's agents realize Akamaru's on top of Shutero's head. In the present, Shutero tells the four that Akamaru's been sitting on his head since that day. Lum asks Shutero if they can grab Akamaru, but Shutero tells him that Akamaru has no physical form. Moreover, Shutero hopes this octopus isn't Akamaru. If this turns out to be the case, Shutero hopes his agents will find Akamaru's remains. He wants to give Akamaru a proper burial. Sherry arrives, telling Shutero that Akamaru isn't dead. Sakura arrives and tells Shutaro that the spirit on his head is called a Kawaka. After Sakura and Shutaro chat about this predicament, Shutaro's agents arrive. His agents inform him that they haven't found a Komaru yet. Sakura tries experimenting with Cherry and the Kawaka. The two hold a staring contest, causing Sakura to slap Cherry and Ataru that hit Shutaro with his mallet. Shutaro chases Ataru around the room with his sword. He slashes through one of his pillows and finds a Komaru inside it. Shutaro informs the others that he wondered why his pillow felt lumpy lately. Lum is baffled that Shutaro didn't think to check his pillow. Ataru wakes a Komaru up by splashing water on it. Once a Komaru wakes up, the Kawaka on Shutaro's head disappears. Cherry explains that Akamaru's Kawaka spirit appeared because it wanted to tell Shutaro where it was hiding. Shutaro's agent explains why Akamaru was hiding in Shutaro's pillow, and everyone laughs at his response. We see a girl knitting in her hospital room, and she notices Ataru's running somewhere and finds him attractive. On October 27th, the girl's mother enters her room and tells the girl who Ataru is. When this girl asks her mother about Ataru's personality, she laughs. Although the girl has a hunch that Ataru's dating someone, she hopes she can tell Ataru how she feels about him before she perishes. Meanwhile, Ataru and Lum visit Sakura. Sakura tells Ataru that he needs him to date her client's daughter. Ataru accepts and says he'd date this girl even if she was a monster. Sakura looks at Ataru and Ataru realizes this girl might be a freaky creature. This entices him to deny Sakura's offer, but Sakura grabs him. Cherry arrives and ensures Ataru that the girl isn't a nasty creature. Cherry introduces Sakura's client to Ataru. We learn she has passed. However, Cherry says she wants to go on a date with Ataru before she passes on to the afterlife. Ataru interacts with the ghost girl, and we learn her name is Nozomi. While the two are interacting with each other, Lum is curious how Nozomi will react when she discovers the truth about Ataru's perverted ways. Sakura and Cherry tell Lum that Nozomi's spirit will still pass on. Nozomi hands Ataru a scarf and Sakura informs Lum that she passed away on Christmas. Nozomi gives Ataru several winter-related clothes and Ataru puts them on. He isn't thrilled that he'll have to wear these artifacts since it's currently hot outside. When Nozomi presents him with a sweater, Ataru tries fleeing the scene. Sakura uses a rope to grab Ataru. She tells him to stick with the date, but Ataru wants to back out of the offer. Lum tells Ataru to go through with the date, baffling him. Nozomi interrupts Ataru and the other's conversation. She tells him he doesn't have to wear the sweater. However, she apologizes to Ataru for not finishing the sweater because she died before she could. Ataru decides to wear the sweater. He and Nozomi travel through town and discuss things with each other. Simultaneously, several people spot Ataru and believe he's talking to himself. Sakura, Lum, and Cherry monitor the two from afar. We receive a montage of the three observing Nozomi and Ataru's date. While Ataru and Nozomi are chatting, Lum asks Sakura when Nozomi's spirit will pass on. She tells Sakura and Cherry that Ataru's reaching his breaking point. Sakura reads Nozomi's diary and informs Lum and Cherry about the ultimate wish she wants to fulfill with Ataru. Cherry tells Lum that this foray may continue to the winter time, baffling Lum. Before Nozomi suggests another ride, the lights turn off around her. Nozomi wonders what's happening. Suddenly, Ataru pops up behind Nozomi as fireworks ignite in the sky. Nozomi notices several white droplets falling from the sky and wanders over to Ataru. She asks him if she can clutch one of his arms, and Ataru says she can. As Nozomi clutches Ataru's arm, she fades away. Sakura, Cherry, and Lum approach Ataru. Sakura and Cherry praise Ataru for going through with this. Sakura tells Ataru he can remove Nozomi's sweater, but he tells Sakura that he's going to keep it on. The next day, Ataru and Lum visit Nozomi's grave to pay respects. Lum praises Ataru for his act of kindness. Ataru tells Lum any competent person would assist a girl like Nozomi in accomplishing her dream, and we see a scene of Nozomi's diary. Ataru's principal walking next to Kotatsu in the hallway. The narrator states that his principal is an easygoing figure. The principal walks into Anson Mark's classroom and sees him yelling at Lum, Ataru, and the others. Before Anson punishes Lum and her friends, the principal steps in. The narrator explains that whenever the principal gets involved in a heated situation like this one, he hands students a fair and less severe punishment, to Anson's dismay. Currently, the principal tells Lum and her friends to clean his office. While the students clean his office, the principal has tea with Kotatsu. Anson walks into the room after hearing a strange noise echo out of it. Anson learns someone assaulted the principal and wants to know who did it. Anson calls Sakura to the room. Sakura examines the principal's body and says he only got knocked out. Anson asks around to see who hurt the principal. Ataru starts accusing Shutaro of being responsible for the incident. This results in the two clashing heads. Sakura learns everyone had their backs turned when the crime was committed and that no one in the room would have reasons to harm him. Anson contemplates the situation and mentions the notion behind two-faced individuals. Lum doodles on the principal's head and Anson offers a theory that would place Lum as the prime suspect. Sakura wonders if the suspect did it for monetary matters. Anson proposes a new theory that placed Ryunosuke as the suspect. Ryunosuke and Lum confront Anson since he claims they are the culprits. Ataru and the others chime in. He believes Anson could be responsible since he was the first one to report on the crime. Sakura piggybacks on Ataru's claim. She says Anson could have assaulted the principal because he wasn't pleased that he gave Ataru and the others a fair punishment. Ataru, Ryunosuke, and Shutaro try persuading Anson to fess up to the crime. Later, the principal wakes up and asks Sakura what happened to his boiled egg. In a flashback, we learn what caused the principal's head injury. The principal cracked an egg on his head, resulting in him plummeting to the ground. Lum tries telling Ataru the truth, but Ataru wants Anson to fess up to the crime. Anson says he did it, and gobbling up the meal. Lum intends stumbling upon Ran, and Ran tells Lum to hush up because she's tending to some alien-like flowers. Ran explains why they must be weary of what they say in front of these flowers. She says these flowers will repeat specific phrases shared in front of them. Lum asks Ran why she imported these flowers here. She says she wanted the flowers because they looked pretty. Lum's relieved because she thought Ran planned to spread ill rumors about Lum with the flowers. Ran finds that idea fascinating and states ill things about Lum to the flowers. Lum partakes in this activity too. Ran seals the flowers up and she and Lum call a truce. Suddenly, Cherry arrives and opens the sealed container. This allows numerous flowers to fly off into the sunset. Lum and Ran panic. Numerous flowers start appearing on Kotatsu, Ataru, Shinobu, and others. Ataru meets with Shinobu and she's worried that these flowers won't come off. The two notice Ran passes them by, causing Ataru and Shinobu's flowers to fly off into the air. Lum captures most of the flower petals with her net. She leaves after capturing numerous petals. Unfortunately, 2 flower petals fly past Lum without her realizing it. We cut to Anson and the principal waiting for several students to arrive at the high school. Several flowers drop behind the two and repeatedly state how a teacher is out for revenge. We cut to Shutaro taking a carriage ride to school. He spots Ataru and Shinobu nearby and greets Shinobu. He explains why he's late to the school meeting today. While doing so, a flower lands on his shoulder and says he wet the bed. Shutaro promises Shinobu he didn't wet the bed and asks Ataru to stick up for him. Ataru doesn't, and this angers Shutaro. We shift to 10, Ran and Lum having tea at Ran's place. Lum's happy that they retrieved all the talking flowers and that it didn't lead to anything bad happening. We receive several snippets of Anson and Shutaro suffering from the talking flowers remarks. The second set piece closes with Shutaro yelling at the talking flower for claiming he's a bedwetter. The final segment begins with Anson heading to Ataru's home. Anson plummets to the ground. In their dining room, Ataru's mother wonders why Anson is running late. Ataru tells his mother that they should have dinner without Anson. Ataru and his family eat while Anson tries alerting them about his arrival. Ataru and his family finish their meal and Anson crawls out of their home. Outside, Anson says he wishes he never created the home visit excursions in the first place. Suddenly, a spaceship captures Anson. Scene shifts to Ran baking cupcakes and plans to deliver these cupcakes to someone. Ran goes for a stroll and Ataru notices her. He plans to spook her. Then one of Ran's cupcakes falls out of her basket. Ataru eats one and collapses. Lum spots Ataru on the ground and wonders what happened. Lum spots one of the cupcake wrappers nearby and notices Ran made them. She tries waking Ataru up but he doesn't budge. Lum brings Ataru home and the robot doctor checks on him. The doctor says if Ataru dies, he and Cherry already have his funeral prepared. The doctor doesn't provide Lum with the best support, so she plans to visit Ran to see if she has an antidote. Lum shows Cherry a device that'll allow her to keep track of Ataru's health. Lum leaves and asks Cherry to monitor Ataru. Lum returns to the scene where Ataru ate Ran's cupcakes. She uses a camera device to head into a portal. This portal takes her to the world Ran's currently strolling through. Ran realizes she's lost and asks a creature nearby for directions. Lum stumbles upon the creature later and learns it's unconscious because it ate Ran's cupcakes. We receive a montage of Lum asking inhabitants if they've seen Ran. Lum visits a stream and cries because she's worried about Ataru. She spots one of Ran's wrappers flowing down the stream and investigates. While Lum's soaring through the sky, we cut to Cherry sleeping next to Ataru. He accidentally pulls the cord to the device that's attached to Ataru. This shuts off the device attached to him and the one Lum's carrying around. Lum sheds a tear. Meanwhile, Ran and Ree are walking together. Ree's enjoying Ran's cupcakes and Ran's glad he likes them. Suddenly, Ree hears Lum crying in the distance and checks on her. Ran rushes over to Lum and yells at her for ruining her day with Ree. She stops yelling when she notices Lum's upset. Lum tells Ran that Ataru died. Ran doesn't believe he's dead. She tells Lum that she and Ree will take her back to Ataru's place to check on him. The three return and Ataru yells at them for barging into his room through the window. Lum rushes into Ataru's arms and is happy that he's okay. Ran asks Lum to explain what happened. After Lum informs Ran about what happened, Ran's furious because those cupcakes were specifically made for Ree, and Lum apologizing to Ran and Ree strangling Ataru. We see Anson mark after Lum's parents abducted him. Lum and her parents welcome Anson into their dining room. They tell him he can help himself to the food in the room. Anson cries and thanks Lum and her family for treating him with respect. Anson and Lum's father get drunk and Anson unloads his qualms about his home visit excursions. The next day, Ataru and the others wonder where Anson is. We cut to Anson and Lum's father chatting. Anson's no longer drunk, but Lum's father is still. He doesn't plan to let Anson go despite Anson telling him that he has a class he needs to teach. We see Shutaro breaking a few jars to overcome his fear of darkness. Later, several of Shutaro's servants arrive at Ataru's home. They inform Ataru about Shutaro's training regime. His classmates arrive at Shutaro's home to check on him. Lum asks Shutaro why he's training so hard. Shutaro leads Lum to his training room and jumps into one of the jars, revealing he fears darkness. To his surprise, everyone arrives. While Shinobu comforts Shutaro, Ryanosuke and Ataru belittle him for his phobia-conquering method. Although Shutaro knows he's attractive, wealthy, and powerful, he finds those positives useless next to his fear. Lum suggests Shutaro travel to the spot that caused his fear. Lum uses the same quasi-time machine she used before. They land in Shutaro's family's fountain and encounter a younger version of Shutaro. Lum's overjoyed that the machine worked properly. Suddenly, young Shutaro calls his family's guards. He orders them to capture them. While the guards pummel older Shutaro, Lum grabs young Shutaro and they all run away. While Ataru and young Shutaro argue, Lum covers young Shutaro with a bell. He reacts normally, which means he hasn't attained his phobias yet. Ataru plans to straighten young Shutaro out, but older Shutaro intervenes. However, young Shutaro wants nothing to do with his older iteration. This results in the three bickering and young Shutaro crying. Suddenly, young Ryoko and a guard arrive to stop the commotion. Young Ryoko greets her brother in a prank-like manner, startling everyone. Young Shutaro asks young Ryoko to go for backup, but she pushes him into the lake nearby and young Shutaro exits the lake, enraged by her constant comedic actions. Young Shutaro sprays one of his octopus's ink on Ataru and Shutaro. This results in Shutaro and Ataru chasing young Shutaro down. Ataru and older Shutaro fall into one of young Shutaro's traps. He orders his men to bury them while the other watch from afar. The girls agree to wait. The scene shifts to a room where Ataru and older Shutaro are chained on top of the wall. Young Shutaro shoots several arrows at them. Older Shutaro catches each arrow. Somehow, Ataru breaks free and agrees to help young Shutaro discipline older Shutaro. Meanwhile, Lum and her allies attack three guards and steal their clothes, and they enter the mansion. In young Shutaro's room, older Shutaro is enraged that Ataru switched sides, but Ataru whispers, informing him that he must gain young Shutaro's trust. Ataru convinces everyone to look the other way, and he hits young Shutaro on the head to convince him. Young Shutaro asks Ataru who hit him, and Ataru says older Shutaro did. Shutaro's parents arrive. His father approaches older Shutaro and says he looks familiar. He thinks his father will catch on. Unfortunately, but he mistakes him to be his son's tutor. Angering Shutaro tells him he's his son, and everyone thinks he is a cheater. He turns to his wife, promising her he's the only woman he needs. The two leave the area and more of young Shutaro's guards arrive with a giant bell. Lum and the others are with them. The guards drop the giant bell on older Shutaro. Shinobu, Ryanosuke, and Lum start attacking the guards. Young Shutaro wanders in front of the bell and pulls out a stick of dynamite and a lighter. He plans to blow this place up. Before he sets it off, Shutaro breaks free from imprisonment and stares at his younger self menacingly. Older Shutaro chases Ataru and young Shutaro to his jar training room. Ataru and young Shutaro hide in one of the jars. Older Shutaro arrives with an axe. Shinobu and the others arrive and tell older Shutaro to stop. Ataru drops a jar on his head. While older Shutaro is unconscious, Ataru drags older Shutaro away from the room, but they leave young Shutaro trembling inside a jar. Later, older Shutaro wakes up and Lum informs him he's in the present. Hataru places a jar on older Shutaro and he continues screeching in fear. Shutaro's upset that they couldn't discover what triggered his phobias. In the past, we see young Shutaro's guards freeing him from his jar hideout. He starts crying because he is terrified when he gets trapped in a dark place. We see Tobimuro relaxing in the hot spring, but Asuka arrives to bathe with him so he gets a nosebleed and faints. Later, Tobimuro explains to her that they are blood-related, so it's not right for them to bathe and sleep together. He tells her she should do those things with someone she loves. Asuka doesn't understand him, so their mother arrives and has a way to help Asuka. After that, Asuka is sitting on a tree and observing the male student's baseball game. In a flashback, her mother wants her to deliver something to Shutaro. Asuka's scared, but her mother persuades her to progress with this errand. Then Asuka tries searching for Shutaro but fails to interact with girls because she's wearing her night outfit. The girls leave and grab Anson Mark and a few male students, but Asuka flies them away. Shutaro, Ataru, and others recognize Asuka's voice. Asuka leaps into the school building and encounters Ryanosuke. The two stare at each other, but Asuka pushes Ryanosuke and flees. The others arrive, and Asuka throws Shutaro the item her mother wants her to give to him. Shutaro opens it up and learns Asuka's mother wants Shutaro to help Asuka break free from her fear of men. Lum finds Asuka and the two hide underneath Kotatsu's kotatsu. Asuka tells Lum that her mother sent her here to deliver the item to Shutaro and to find the perfect man. Ryanosuke finds them and tries to tell Asuka that she's a woman. Asuka throws her into the wall and flees, but she continues chasing her. She tries flashing her melons to prove that she's a woman, but Asuka isn't convinced and hops into a tree to hide, and her mother and Tobimuro appear beside her. Her mother asks if she finds a perfect man, and Asuka tells her about Ryanosuke, who left a decent impression on her. After a humorous conversation ensues involving human chests, Asuka's mother pushes her off the tree. Asuka asks Ryanosuke if she can lay on her chest, and Ryanosuke agrees. But Ataru intervenes, and Asuka hugs a tree, completely destroying it. She approaches Ryanosuke again, but she flees because she's afraid of Asuka's immense strength. Meanwhile, Shutaro climbs up the tree and informs them that Ryanosuke is a girl. Simultaneously, Asuka grabs Ryanosuke, breaking the walls. But Asuka realizes something strange regarding Ryanosuke. Her mother and the others arrive. Ryanosuke thinks Asuka believes she's a woman, but tells Ryanosuke that she thinks she's another brother of hers, because her chest size is similar to her brother, which furious Ryanosuke. The next day, Tobimuro wakes up and realizes Asuka's in his bed. Suddenly, Asuka's mother enters the room and scolds Tobimuro for luring his sister into his bed. This entices his mother to head to the Shutaro mentioned to speak with him, and she asks Shutaro to go on a date with Asuka since he's the only man she doesn't fear. Hataru arrives and says he'd like to go on the date. Lum arrives too because she doesn't want Ataru to get involved. Ryoko tells Shutaro she doesn't want him to be romantically involved with another woman, and this results in the two fighting. Nonetheless, Shutaro tells Asuka's mother that he won't fail the mission. On date day, Shutaro has his guards dress up in costumes because Asuka's afraid of seeing other men. Asuka and her mother arrive. She tries hugging Shutaro, but he dodges her. Asuka grabs one of his family's heirlooms, while Ryoko sees the two from afar. We see Lum dressed up as one of Asuka's female guards because doesn't want Ataru to intervene. Meanwhile, Asuka's mother hopes matters will go well. Asuka serves Shutaro tea on her date. While Lum searches for Ataru, she stumbles upon Shutaro's guards wearing animal outfits, but Lum thinks Ataru's hiding among them. She tells them they've been ordered to perform moat cleaning duties. The guards get to work and Lum electrocutes the water to see if she can draw Ataru out. One of the guards tells Shutaro about what's happening and removes his outfit. This freaks Asuka out, causing her to attack and send the guard flying. She squeezes Shutaro very hard, making him unconscious. Ataru places himself behind Shutaro and plans to act as him via puppetry. Lum overhears Ataru's discussion with Asuka. She confronts the two and removes Ataru's disguise, so Asuka freaks out and throws Ataru and Shutaro in the air. The two land in the moat. Shutaro asks the guards why they're cleaning the moat, so the guard says he ordered them to do it, but Shutaro knows that's not the case. Asuka's left in tears, but Lum arrives and offers to lead her somewhere. They arrive at Shutaro's family's tank. Lum says Asuka can use the tank to escape, but she breaks the tank and uses the pieces to give herself a suit of armor. Shutaro confronts Asuka about her armor. But before Shutaro persuades Asuka to remove the armor, Ataru reveals himself to Asuka. This entices Asuka to attack him and flee the area. Ryoko's servants lead Asuka to Ryoko's room, and she questions why Asuka's wearing armor, and Asuka questions who Ryoko is. Essentially, Ryoko can't believe Asuka thinks Shutaro is a relative of hers. Shutaro arrives and pulls Ryoko aside because he doesn't want Ryoko telling Asuka the truth. Ryoko unveils Ataru's hiding within Shutaro's cloak, and Asuka throws them away. Asuka's mother and Lum arrive. Asuka's mother alludes to having Asuka go on a date with Ataru, and Shutaro argues that's a horrible idea, but Asuka's mother's not backing down. This encourages Asuka to stand up to her mother and challenge her to a battle. Asuka gives it her best shot, but her mother overpowers her, and everyone gets shocked seeing this. She asks one of her guards to bring Tobimuro here, and he's wrangled in a rope. Tobimuro says if Asuka flees, he'll die. Asuka doesn't know what to do, so Lum blindfolds her. Lum says she'll tag along and hurt Ataru if he tries anything weird. While Ataru and Asuka are dating, Ataru asks Lum to go away, but Lum refuses. Ataru pulls off a funny antic on Asuka, resulting in her running toward Shutaro's mansion. Asuka's mother warns her to calm down, otherwise she'll continue to hurt Tobimuro. Asuka and Ataru arrive near a tree. Ryoko arrives and tells Asuka that she should retaliate and save Tobimuro. Asuka vows to grab Tobimuro and flee the area. Before Asuka can deal a decisive blow to her mother, Tobimuro deflects her attack. Asuka grabs Tobimuro and uses Ataru as a propeller to flee the area. Asuka tells her mother she no longer wants to be an obedient child of her. Lum snips the chain, so Asuka and Tobimuro fall into the water while Ataru flies off somewhere. Asuka apologizes to her mother and promises she'll overcome her androphobia. The next day, Tobimuro is sleeping in his bed and again sees Asuka sleeping next to him, and thus nothing changes. We see the group in the helicopter heading toward Ryunosuke's seaside cafe. The four arrive at the cafe and notice Ryunosuke and her father arguing about the cafe. Ryunosuke's father welcomes Ataru and the others inside. Inside, he says he bought this island for 300 yen, which frustrates Ryunosuke even more. Later, Ryunosuke takes a bath and reflects on her father's purchase. Suddenly, a woman approaches Ryunosuke and vanishes. Ryunosuke realizes she is a ghost. Shutaro and Ataru arrive with tennis rackets and realizes this island is sus. Ryunosuke's father reveals someone died on this island. This cafe's previous owner named Shiowatari died last summer and tells them that the ghost girl Ryunosuke encountered is Nagisa, the owner's daughter. Next, Shiowatari and Nagisa pull a prank on them, but Ryunosuke's father applauds, so Shiowatari and Nagisa approach Ryunosuke and introduce themselves. He tells Nagisa that Ryunosuke is her fiancé, and they reveal that they had planned to have their kids marry each other. Ryunosuke shoots Nagisa's affection down, resulting in Shiowatari and Nagisa crying. Ataru and Lum ask them how they died. They created the special dish to attract more customers. Shiowatari explains that he and Nagisa ate too much shave ice while testing it and eventually died from it. Ryunosuke's father admires Shiowatari and Nagisa's deaths and vows to continue the special shave ice dish. Shiowatari says this will bring him peace, but Nagisa won't rest until she and Ryunosuke kiss. Ryunosuke refuses, and Nagisa, thinking it's because she's a ghost, Lum and the others comfort her. Ryunosuke tells Shiowatari she's a girl, but Shiowatari doesn't care. He just wants Nagisa to find love, and believes Ryunosuke is the only one who can help. Before Ryunosuke can decide, her father knocks her out and drags her toward Nagisa for a kiss, but Nagisa phases through her and it doesn't work. Shiowatari points to the full moon and tells Nagisa to touch the sea urchin's tear from a legend. When she does, her body is restored, and she chases after Ryunosuke for the kiss. Meanwhile, Shinobu wonders why Ataru and Shutaro aren't pursuing Nagisa. Ryunosuke tells Nagisa she's a woman, but Nagisa reveals she doesn't care and that she's a boy. Before they kiss, Shiowatari vanishes with the sunrise. Later, Ryunosuke asks why Nagisa didn't disappear, and Nagisa explains he now has a physical body. The scene ends with Nagisa offering Ryunosuke's father the special shave ice. Ten and Ataru have a puppet and robot duel in Ataru's room. Ten gets upset, accusing Ataru of cheating, but Ataru denies it. The next morning, Ten finds a glowing puddle and discovers a fairy inside. The fairy tells Ten he's trapped and needs his parasol to be freed. In return, the fairy promises to make one of Ten's dreams come true. Ten goes to find the parasol and tricks a cat into giving it up, but Lum grabs it and puts it in a bird's nest to keep the birds dry. Ten tries to retrieve it but is blocked by the mother bird. After failing to fight the bird, Lum gives Ten the parasol, but Ataru briefly takes it before Lum retrieves it again. Ten burns Ataru with his fire breath, and Ataru knocks him into the sky with a frying pan. Ten accidentally drops the parasol into the fairy's puddle, freeing the fairy, who conjures a rainbow. The fairy tells Ten to follow the rainbow to make his dream come true, but instead Ten's nightmare creature appears, while the fairy sings and flies away. Nagisa dreams about kissing Ryunosuke, but in reality, Ryunosuke is waking Nagisa for breakfast, leading to a funny altercation. At breakfast, Nagisa eats multiple plates of food, irritating Ryunosuke. Her father tells Ryunosuke to treat Nagisa better. A flashback reveals Nagisa begging Ryunosuke and her father to let him stay with them. Later, Ryunosuke discusses her problems with Nagisa. Shinobu reminds Ryunosuke that kissing Nagisa will release his spirit to the afterlife, but Ryunosuke refuses. Lum and others discuss the situation, while Ataru plots to kiss Ryunosuke before Nagisa does. Nagisa arrives and hits Ataru with his mallet, telling him that his love for Ryunosuke is stronger than Ataru's. That evening, Ryunosuke's father announces he'll be gone for the night and warns them not to misbehave. Ryunosuke punches him into the air after a comment about not getting freaky with Nagisa. Ryunosuke locks Nagisa out, but Nagisa breaks back in and accidentally sees Ryunosuke undressing, causing her to shout at him. Outside, Nagisa has mischievous thoughts while Ryunosuke decides to spend the night at a friend's house. Nagisa asks if Ryunosuke is afraid of him, leading to a fight. Nagisa overpowers Ryunosuke, but when a ghost warding talisman lands on his face, he flees. Sakura arrives and gives Ryunosuke more talismans for protection, offering for her to stay at Sakura's place. Ryunosuke later tries to challenge Nagisa to a fight, but Nagisa refuses and vanishes, causing Ryunosuke pain. The real Nagisa soon returns, leading to more arguing between the two. Lum, Ataru, and Sakura overhear their bickering at night. Nagisa runs outside, and Ryunosuke follows, leading to another fight. Ataru, Lum, and Sakura watch from a distance, eating snacks. Sakura tries to share wisdom with Ataru, but he's more focused on his crude thoughts. Nagisa eventually realizes that fighting will get him nowhere and gives up. Ataru questions Nagisa's strength, and Nagisa mentions he competes in the yearly seaside sumo contest. Ryunosuke scolds Nagisa for going easy on her. Nagisa admits he doesn't want to fight a girl he loves. Before he can leave, Ryunosuke convinces him to stay, but promises to clobber him one day. That night, Nagisa and Ryunosuke sleep with a wooden board separating them. However, Nagisa rolls over and tries to kiss Ryunosuke in his sleep, leading Ryunosuke to lock him in another room. Ataru discusses Onsen Mark's strict supplementary lesson scheme with a male classmate. Ten confronts Ataru and his friends about the lessons, but they tell him to buzz off. Ten retaliates with his fire breath, prompting them to throw pine-cones at him. Frustrated, Ten flies away but vows revenge. Onsen Mark announces to the class that they will have 3 minutes of free time to talk, but warns them that any talking during his lecture will result in supplementary lessons. The students complain, but Onsen Mark insists the decision is final. Lum asks Ataru about supplementary lessons, finding them interesting, but Ataru tells her not to speak. When free time ends, Onsen Mark begins his lecture. Onsen Mark asks Ataru to read from his textbook, but Ataru writes something on paper instead. Onsen Mark allows class discussions as long as they are related to studies, leading more students to hold up books with written messages. Onsen Mark reminds them that speaking will lead to supplementary lessons. Ten returns and starts causing trouble again. Shutaro and others urge Onsen Mark to continue his lecture. While Onsen Mark teaches, Ten becomes frustrated, wondering why everyone is ignoring him. He approaches Lum to ask what's going on, but Ataru reminds Lum not to speak even though Onsen Mark allows her to tell Ten to leave. Ten leaves briefly and returns with pine-cones to throw at Ataru. This sparks a chaotic reaction with the class pelting Ten with textbooks. In retaliation, Ten throws a grenade, causing a minor explosion in the classroom. Ataru writes another message to Onsen Mark, encouraging him to continue lecturing, which makes Onsen Mark happy that his students are so eager to learn. The school day ends as the bell rings and everyone starts talking. Lum hopes Ataru will thank her for her help, but Ten complains that the whole ordeal was a huge waste of time. Shinobu waits for Ataru and Lum in a park and overhears two men who she thinks are commenting on her. She quickly realizes they were talking about an animal, not her. Embarrassed, she tells them their comments didn't bother her. When Ataru and Lum arrive, Lum explains why they're late. Frustrated, Shinobu leaves them and wanders through the park, wishing to meet a kind man. She then stumbles upon Inaba, unconscious. After waking him, they go to a restaurant where Inaba asks Shinobu to be his girlfriend. Ataru overhears and tells Shinobu to turn him down, which angers Lum. Inaba says he can ask any girl to help him, frustrating Shinobu enough to injure him and storm out. Inaba follows her, begging for a chance to explain. Shinobu relents and the two, along with Lum and Ataru, sit on a bench where Inaba reveals that he needs a partner for a promotion test. He explains that co-workers with significant others perform better on the test, so Shinobu agrees to help. The group travels to Inaba's world, where they find a large spooky door. Shinobu urges Inaba to open it, leading them to a bathhouse filled with women. Ataru flirts with the women, infuriating Lum. Meanwhile, Inaba hesitates, worried about failing the test. His friends try to discourage him, but Shinobu pushes him to continue. After leaving the bathhouse, the group finds themselves in a grassy area where lightning bolts lock Lum and Inaba together, and Shinobu with Ataru. They soon reach a fork in the road, with one path leading to heaven and the other to hell. Ataru chooses the hell route after seeing a girl in a bunny suit. The girl reveals herself to be a male god, who rewards them for picking the disguised heaven route. More bunny girls appear, and the god throws a key to a nearby river. The group dives into the river to retrieve it. Inaba uses the key to unlock the shackles, but Ataru gets distracted by a mermaid. Meanwhile, another mermaid grabs Shinobu's hair and telepathically orders Inaba to kiss her. Inaba tries, but Shinobu frees herself and drops a rock on his head in frustration. Shinobu accidentally falls into a space-time irregularity, prompting Inaba to chase after her. Ataru and Lum, unconcerned, are told by Inaba's co-worker that Inaba won't pass the test unless he makes the space-time forest flower bloom. Inaba catches up with Shinobu, but she is uninterested in his words. They come across a shortcut guarded by bunny girls, but Shinobu cannot use it because she's not a rabbit. Despite Shinobu's insistence that Inaba leave her behind, he refuses and chooses to fight a rock monster blocking their escape. The rock monster brutally beats Inaba, frightening Shinobu. However, Inaba finds its weak point and defeats it. After escaping through the monster's door, Shinobu drags Inaba's unconscious body to the flower required for the test, only to find it withered. Inaba's co-worker explains that the test is designed to sabotage relationships, which is why it's so challenging. Inaba wakes up and thanks Shinobu for supporting him, offering her a bouquet of flowers. Touch, Shinobu sheds a tear, which falls on the withered flower, causing it to bloom. The two share a moment as they gaze at the blooming flower. Inaba asks Shinobu if he can visit her sometime, and she gladly agrees to wait for him. Lum knits a scarf for Ataru on her ship and visits his home to put it on him. While she's there, Ataru and Ten are in a scuffle, and Ten uses his fire powers, accidentally burning the scarf. Ataru yells at Ten for ruining Lum's work, making him feel terrible, and Ten flies off in distress. Lum, however, tells Ataru she's not mad at Ten, even though he thinks she should be. Flying away, Ten is scared Lum will punish him, so he goes to Cherry for advice, but all Cherry can think about is food. With no help from Cherry, Ten heads to Shotaro's place, who shows him an honorable apology method, but Ten finds it ridiculous. He then stumbles upon Ryanosuke arguing with her father and doesn't like her aggressive approach either. Frustrated, Ten decides to combine everyone's methods for a grand apology. Meanwhile, Lum reflects on Ataru's words and recalls a time her father punished her for breaking a family device. Just then, Ten arrives, and she explodes in rage, scaring him. Later, Sakura sees Ten leaving Tomobiki town with a bag and learns he's leaving over the scarf incident. She suggests he write Lum an apology letter. Ten goes to Ataru's place to find something to write with, and later, Ataru asks Lum that she's seen him around. Lum continues knitting as we find out Ten's apology is written on Ataru's shirt, and Ataru insists Lum lose her temper with Ten next time. Meanwhile, Ran buys love candies from a candy salesman. She meets Ri and feeds him a handful of candies, hoping to charm him. Lum notices her in town and asks what's wrong, but Ran brushes her off, throwing her bag of candies at Lum and leaving. Lum eats a candy and a heart appears above her head. The next day, Ataru sees the floating heart and grabs it, which makes Lum overly infatuated with him, leading her to electrocute him. When they get to school, Ataru's classmates also grab Lum's heart, and she falls in love with each one who holds it. She finally retrieves her heart and shocks anyone who comes near. She then feeds Ataru a candy, who grabs the bag and tries to give them to Shinobu and Ryanosuke, but Cherry arrives and eats all the candies, annoying Ataru. Furious, Ataru throws Cherry out of the school and feeds the remaining candies to his male classmates. Ansen Mark arrives, confiscates their hearts, causing them all to fall in love with him, and later goes absent from school, reluctant to deal with his male students' affections. Elsewhere, Lum's father finds a strange device on his ship while Benton visits Oyuki and admires her gifts. Oyuki mentions a gift from the Dark Dominion, a distant universe, and Benton is intrigued. Lum later greets Ran and Ataru, bringing Ataru a special coat, but he realizes it's a love coat and tries to put it on Sakura, who dodges him. Meanwhile, Lum's parents talk about the mysterious device her father found, which contains an older man. There's a note from the Dark Dominion warning that Lum may be in danger. The scene shifts to two mysterious figures on a spacecraft plotting to capture Lum. We enter a flashback where young Lum and Ran play in a flower field, and Lum encounters the same man from the present who promises to make her his bride one day. Lum recalls her past encounter with the mysterious man, then snaps out of her trance and electrocutes Onsen Mark. Shutaro and another classmate, upset with Onsen, take the chance to hurt him out of spite. Lum, puzzled by her sudden memory, wonders about its meaning and shares it with Ataru while they stroll. However, he brushes her off and quickly flocks toward another girl, trying to get her contact information. After chasing Ataru for a bit, Lum heads back to her ship. Ten arrives and tries to talk about Ataru, but she ignores him, venting more complaints instead. Just then, her father calls, informing her that he's found her great-grandfather. He explains that they kept him asleep at their old place for ages, but misplaced him during a recent move, only now realizing where he is. He insists that Lum come home to meet her great-grandfather, and she agrees. Meanwhile, Sakura and her family are dining, but she refuses to eat, sensing something strange in the air. She grabs Cherry and leads him to a secluded part of her home to use their crystal ball for divination. Ataru arrives unexpectedly and joins them. After teasing Sakura briefly, the crystal ball reveals an image of Lum, leading Sakura to predict she's in danger of being dragged into darkness. Ataru heads home, mulling over Cherry and Sakura's words about helping Lum avoid dark places. He asks Ten and his mother if they've seen her, and Ten mentions Lum went home to visit her great-grandfather. While Lum's father, mother, and great-grandfather discuss her arrival, her great-grandfather expresses worry upon learning that she's a girl, confusing her father. Shortly after, an elderly figure arrives at her father's home. Back at Ataru's, he starts growing worried about Lum's absence. Meanwhile, she arrives at her family's place, with the elderly man arriving soon after. He removes his hood, and her great-grandfather recognizes him, explaining how they're connected to Lum and her family. One day, her great-grandfather, exhausted and in need of sustenance, was approached by this elderly man who offered him 2 mushrooms, one healthy and the other poisonous. When he chose the poisonous one, the elderly man promised an antidote in exchange for marrying his daughter. Since he didn't have a daughter, the man altered their agreement, vowing to return to marry a future female descendant. Lum and her father refuse to let this stranger marry her, so he proposes marrying her to his great-grandson instead, which they reject. Tossed outside, the man promises to make her his great-grandson's wife. The next day, Shutaro greets Ataru at school, and they briefly talk about Lum. Suddenly, a dark-cloaked boy arrives and accidentally bonks his head. Ataru and the others bring him to Sakura, curious about his identity. Then, a flashback reveals this boy, named Rupa, is the elderly figure's great-grandson. His great-grandfather promised him Lum as his future wife, showing Rupa a young Lum when they were both toddlers. Back in the present, Rupa, mistaking Sakura for Lum, causes everyone to get annoyed. When Lum finally arrives, he starts flirting with her, but she, annoyed, tries to electrocute him to no effect. She cranks up her power, finally knocking him out. Seconds later, he recovers, slipping a ring onto her finger and declaring his intent to marry her before leaving. Frustrated, Lum tries to remove the ring, asking Ataru for help, but he tells her to do it herself, making her angrier. Meanwhile, on Rupa's ship, he and his great-grandfather discuss Lum's ring and the problems that come with Oni adulthood. The great-grandfather explains that her ring contains a mushroom powder that accelerates her growth each time she uses her electricity, hoping she'll lose her powers as other Oni do upon reaching adulthood. Later, Ataru tries to help Lum with the ring, but they're both sprayed by the powder. Lum then encounters Rupa and attempts to shock him, only to find her powers gone as her horns fall off. Rupa seizes the moment, spraying her with knockout gas, and Ataru spots them in a nearby park. As Rupa flees with Lum, Ataru calls out to her. Rupa brings Lum to his castle, with Ten managing to tag along without Rupa or Lum noticing. Meanwhile, Lum's parents receive a videotape from Rupa's great-grandfather, who reveals his plan to marry Lum to Rupa. Lum then appears on the tape and bites Rupa's great-grandfather's head, and her parents notice that her Oni horns are gone. Before Lum's father and his troops can approach Rupa's castle, Rupa's great-grandfather drops a bomb nearby, causing an explosion. Later, Ataru arrives at class late and places a bag filled with a directory of every attractive female's details from every school on Shutaro's desk. He asks Shutaro for a spaceship in exchange for the directory, but Shutaro says he doesn't own one and questions Ataru about Lum. Just then, Benton and Oyuki join the class, and the group decides to discuss the Lum situation over lunch. Benton and Oyuki inform the boys that Lum's home planet has been silent lately, and they suspect Rupa is involved. Ataru shows Oyuki a picture of Rupa, and she searches her trading book, finding information about Rupa's family and locating them. Meanwhile, Lum's father and his men work to scrape off mushrooms that grew due to the bomb spores, which damaged their technology. Oyuki reveals that Rupa comes from the Dark Dominion, which reminds Ataru of Sakura and Cherry's warning about Lum's potential danger. Benton, Oyuki, and the others decide to borrow Rand's ship without her permission, planning to use it to reach the Dark Dominion and stop Lum's wedding. Meanwhile, Lum throws objects at Rupa and his men, while Ten uses his fire breath to help her. Back on the ship, Rand complains about her ship being taken, but Benton and Oyuki ignore her and activate the warp jump feature, arriving at Rupa's castle. At the castle, Rupa's men inform him that Ataru and his friends have arrived at the Dark Dominion's airport. Lum and Ten overhear this, and Lum eagerly anticipates Ataru's rescue. Although they're locked up, Lum and Ten try to escape, but Rupa catches them and insists Lum follow him to the wedding ceremony. She retaliates with Ten's fire breath, angering Rupa's men further. Rupa then shows Lum that they have captured her friends and taken Rand's ship, but she notices Ataru is missing. One of Rupa's men mentions that Rand's ship collided with Lady Carlos, sending Rupa into a panic. He then orders the wedding to proceed immediately. Meanwhile, Carla finds Ataru in a lake and asks him to sign a marriage contract, hoping to stop Lum and Rupa's wedding by intervening. Just then, one of Rupa's men tells him that Lum has put on the wedding dress, but he's concerned she might ruin the ceremony. Fortunately, Rupa's great-grandfather, Master Yupa, uses a Kapish room to create a clone of Lum, ready to replace her if needed. As Carla and Ataru head toward the venue, Ten explains the situation to Benton and the others, detailing Rupa's wedding plan and Lum's capture. Carla and Ataru crash the wedding just as Rupa hides Lum in a hidden basement and substitutes her with the clone. Ataru tries calling Lum over, but the clone, following her programming, ignores him. Carla then questions Rupa about his supposed love for her, and he admits he pretended out of fear. Carla, infuriated, declares her intent to kill Rupa and herself, opening fire and accidentally hitting the clone Lum, causing her to fall through a trapdoor, which frees the real Lum. Finally, Lum runs to Ataru's side, but he pushes her away due to her previous harsh remarks. The episode ends with a comedic chase involving Ataru, Rupa, Carla, and Lum as Benton and the others make their way to the wedding venue. Inaba shows Shinobu some black doorknobs, explaining that they lead him to dark locations when he attaches them to doors in hyperspace. Shinobu mentions that Lum and Ataru have been missing lately, and both wonder what might be happening. Meanwhile, Benton and the others spot Carla firing her weapon at Rupa and Ataru on the rooftop during the wedding ceremony. Rupa refuses to marry Carla, so she continues shooting. Master Yupa arrives via airship, prompting Rupa to escape with Lum. She asks Ataru for help, but he refuses, believing Lum betrayed him, unaware that it was a fake Lum who said she'd marry Rupa. As Rupa tries to flee, Shutaro arrives and cuts the rope bridge he's holding onto. Rupa, Ataru, Carla, and Lum slide down the rooftop, with Rupa catching Carla to save her. Shutaro urges Ataru to save Lum, who's clinging to a piece of cloth, but it snaps, causing her to fall. Ataru leaps off the roof to join her, and while they're falling, Lum slaps him for flirting with Carla instead of rescuing her, furious that he even joked about marrying Carla. Ataru insists he's serious, showing her a marriage registration form and claiming he wants nothing to do with her. Enraged, Lum's powers return, and she flies into the air while holding Ataru, with electricity sparking around her. The two begin to argue, joined by Rupa and Carla, leaving everyone else confused. Lum declares she'd rather stay with Rupa than be with Ataru, and when Benton questions her decision, Lum explains that she won't return to someone who doesn't trust her. Later on the ship, Benton and Oyuki see Shutaro urging Ataru to apologize to Lum, but he refuses, so they all return home. Carla, whose ship is entangled with Oyuki's, joins them. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Inaba visit Sakura and Cherry, where Sakura shows them her crystal ball, predicting that Lum will be pulled into darkness and soon the Earth will be too. They all arrive at Ataru's house, and his mother isn't thrilled about cooking for everyone. Carla offers mushrooms for the dish, and over the meal, everyone insists Ataru apologize to Lum, but he refuses, saying she should apologize first. Benton questions Sakura about the prophecy, but Sakura isn't certain if bringing Lum back will prevent it. In the meantime, Rupa explains to Lum about his past with Carla, saying he prefers her because she's less chaotic. Lum, however, points out that he hardly knows her and even mocks his lack of a genuine connection with Carla. Back at Ataru's house, they notice the mushrooms growing larger, and Carla explains that sunlight and heat accelerate their growth. Soon, mushrooms sprout throughout Tomobiki town, leaving residents puzzled. Sakura demands Carla call her people to clear the mushrooms, but Carla refuses, saying only Rupa's pigs can remove them. At Rupa's castle, Lum sees that Rupa has kept all of Carla's gifts, saying he'd feel bad discarding them. Then, a servant informs Rupa that Carla is calling him, and she tells him she accidentally covered Tomobiki town in mushrooms. Rupa mocks her for the mishap, leading to a banter where both exaggerate their relationships with Lum and Ataru. Sakura interrupts and pleads with Lum to convince Rupa to help, but Lum says she'll do it only if Ataru admits he loves her. Ataru responds by saying he hates her, leading Shinobu, Benton, Shutaro, and Sakura to punish him, accidentally breaking the communication device. Reflecting on his words, Ataru feels conflicted, musing by a bridge that Lum should know he loves her without him saying it. Meanwhile, Ran tells Sakura that Earth will be fully covered by mushrooms in 10 days. Suddenly, Rupa's pigs arrive and start eating the mushrooms. Rupa and Lum appear via device, and he informs everyone that only his pigs can remove the mushrooms. Lum proposes a game to save Earth, saying she'll help if Ataru can grab her horns in a game of tag within 10 days. She vows to give her all this time but mentions she'll stop if he tells her he loves her during the game. Ataru, however, insists he'll never say those words. Ataru and Lum arrive at Tomobiki town's football field, where Rupa explains the tag competition's rules and rewards. The game starts and Ataru tries flirting with some girls, hoping to provoke Lum into attacking him. This he thinks would let him grab her horns and win, but Lum doesn't fall for it and keeps fleeing. Frustrated, Ataru pulls out a microphone and tries persuading her to stop. She ignores him, so he resorts to insults, which earns him a shock. A flashback shows Lum telling Rupa that she hopes this game will make Ataru admit he loves her. Rupa understands, but he questions what she'll do if Ataru never says those words. Lum responds that she might have to leave him, and Rupa thinks about this in the present as he watches them. Meanwhile, Master Rupa visits Lum's parents, informing them that Rupa has canceled the wedding. Just as he's about to deliver a message from Lum, the story returns to day 5 of the competition, with Ataru still struggling to capture Lum. His friends pelt him with objects, urging him to just confess his feelings for her. In the meantime, Rupa visits Carla, telling her he wants to lend his pigs to the Earthlings, but only if she agrees to return home with him. Carla and Rupa argue, but he finally admits he wants her to be his wife. Carla softens, crying into his arms, signaling her willingness to forgive him. Back on Earth, Lum's parents' ship hovers over Tomobiki town, and Benton, Ran, and Oyuki go inside. They're shocked to see Lum's father's memory scrubber device, which he plans to use if Ataru won't confess to Lum. The trio returns to Earth to warn everyone, but Ataru overhears and declares he's ready to accept the consequences. When Lum hears this, she decides to use the scrubber immediately and electrocutes him before fleeing to her father's ship. Benton and Oyuki chase after Lum, trying to convince her not to use the memory scrubber, especially since Benton has grown fond of the Earthlings. She even threatens to end their friendship if Lum goes through with it. In the chaos, Benton breaks a table that accidentally activates the scrubber, sending it toward Earth. Meanwhile, Ataru, still at home, reflects on Lum's ultimatum, realizing he doesn't want to forget her. As day 9 arrives, Ataru keeps chasing Lum, with Benton and Oyuki observing from afar. They reveal the memory scrubber has a timer and will activate on the competition's last day unless Ataru wins. Shutaro and his team also work to deactivate the scrubber, but their attempts fail. Lum notices Ataru tiring and briefly shows concern, especially after he falls. That night, Ten sneaks into Ataru's room, angry that Ataru doesn't seem worried about the memory scrubber. He mentions the countdown before leaving, prompting Ataru to seriously think about the device. Lum, meanwhile, tells Rupa how important it is for her that Ataru finally says he loves her. On the last day of the competition, everyone pushes Ataru to confess his love to Lum. However, he hesitates, feeling that if he tells her he loves her, she won't know if he truly means it. The two continue their challenge, with Lum growing increasingly worried about Ataru's well-being as they go on. They eventually reach the school rooftop, where Ataru tells Lum he'll never forget her. He drops her horns on the ground but picks them up right after. Lum, moved to tears, realizes Ataru will likely never change. As she reflects on their past together, she understands that he values his time with her. Ataru grabs Lum and she gently places his hand on her horns, surrendering. Ataru claims victory, deactivating the memory scrubber. Later, Rupa sends his pigs to clean up all the mushrooms. The next day, Lum zaps Ataru for flirting with other girls, and the two run off together. And thus nothing changes, but that's where this video ends. Let me know what you think about this anime, and as always leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video.